Okay, thank you. Good evening. Welcome to the August 5th Select Board meeting regular session. Please note we are being recorded. You okay back there? Ethan, you good? Okay, great. So please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Thank you all for joining us this evening. We will begin with the TA report.
Wow, that was quick. Not prepared. Welcome, everybody. Eric, how are you? I'm pleased to offer the following report on programs and initiatives that are ongoing in the town of Swampscott. Traffic. Mazi and Officer Reine will be hosting a neighborhood meeting to address ongoing concerns regarding speeding on Stetson Ave and Franklin Street. The meeting will be held on Wednesday, August 13th, 6:30 p.m. at the Swampscott Senior Center. Please see the town event calendar for more information. The third annual Humphrey Street Block Party will be held on Saturday from noon to 4. There will be approximately 60 vendors, including food trucks, bands, a martial arts demonstration, and new to this year, a dedicated kids zone. A special thank you to Monsignor McLaughlin for allowing the town to utilize the St. John's parking lot for this event. We hope you can join us for this community event. Humphrey Street will be closed from Reddington to Greenwood to traffic and parking beginning at 10 a.m. The TA Search Committee, good segue here, is here tonight to present the Select Board their top choices for town administrator. This committee has been hard at work since June with the help of Rick White. There were many qualified candidates to choose from. The search committee interviewed 9 candidates and will be presenting the top 3 to the Select Board tonight. I hope I'm right? Okay. Late last week, I met with Lee Zeldin, EPA Administrator. Administrator Zeldin visited the site to Kings Beach to discuss water quality challenges at the beach. He viewed the UV pilot project and was impressed with the partnership between the City of Lynn and the town of Swampscott. Community development, Pine Street. B'nai B'rith Housing plans to submit a comprehensive permit application to the ZBA in August. As part of the process, notices will be mailed out to abutters as required. The public notices will be posted also in the local newspaper. Hadley Hotel. The town and legal staff are working to update and finalize the land disposition agreement. Community Life Center. A request for qualifications was issued for a consultant. The bid was open on Monday, August 4th. The committee is meeting next week to review the RFQs and to discuss the next steps, including issuing an RFP to hire a consultant to conduct a site feasibility for a future Community Life Center building. Building Department. The Building Department issued 120 permits this month, which generated a revenue of $77,290. Some permits were referred to the Historical Commission, ZBA, or Planning Board. Library. The new English Language Learning Lounge Conversation Circle, scheduled to start this week, has been postponed to the first week in September due to the instructor having previously scheduled a vacation. Summer reading is still wildly popular with record-breaking attendance at these events. Registration is on track to exceed last year's numbers. Senior Center. The Senior Center will be hosting a lunch and learn program on August 20th at 11:30 a.m. This program is set up to educate seniors on real estate tax abatements as well as the senior tax work-off program. Additionally, the fire department is hosting a barbecue at the Senior Center later this month. Recreation. Wednesday's Swampscott by the Sea concert features Familiar Strangers. TJ's test truck will be on hand. Next week's concert on August 13 will feature Big Old Dirty Bucket. East Regiment and the Hungry Nomad food truck will be on hand. Concerts start at 6 p.m. Bring a lawn chair, blanket, and listen to some great music. This week's Thursday movie night on Town Hall Lawn will feature Twister, and next week's movie will feature The Wild Robot. Movie nights are sponsored by Sam Walker's American Tavern. Police. We have some hiring updates. There are currently 2 candidates in the process of being hired. Thank you, Chief. I conducted a final interview with Chief Casada and an exciting candidate early last week. An offer letter was presented to the candidate and immediately returned. Unfortunately, that will leave us 3 vacancies short on the PD, which we're still looking to fill. Some good news today. Upon the recommendation of Chief Casada, I am happy to announce the promotion of Brendan Reine to the rank of full-time sergeant status. During Brendan's acting status, he has demonstrated exceptional initiative and resilience. He has continued to take on leadership roles within the Public Information Unit, opioid addiction awareness team, mentoring junior officers through the field training program, and maintaining a high standard of professionalism and integrity. Acting Sergeant Brendan Reine's performance in complex assignments, ability to make sound decisions under chaotic circumstances, and skill in fostering team cohesion highlights his continued readiness to assume greater responsibility within the Swampscott Police Department command unit. Congratulations, Brendan. This is well deserved. Thank you. All right, now, not that that wasn't my favorite subject, but my favorite subject, trash, right? The trash strike continues despite local pressure from local elected officials, the governor, and state legislatures. We will continue to have curbside trash pickup only in the town of Swampscott. We will continue to open the DPW yard on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. Fridays from 3 to 7, Saturday and Sunday from 10 to 4, to accept recycling, not trash. Additionally,
I gotta go water.
Additionally, the DPW yard will be accepting yard waste again this weekend due to the late notification last week. We accepted yard waste last week, but because we didn't get the notification out to Thursday, I thought it was a little late. People were a little surprised when they were coming in to drop off their recycling. So we're accepting the yard waste. We're going to do it for 1 more week, but this is the last week for yard waste. So please try to get it down there because the next yard waste pickup is scheduled for September. We ask residents to bring recycling in recyclable containers, cardboard box, paper bag, or even a yard waste bag. Plastic bags with recycling are not accepted. What's happening now, and it delays the line, is if you come in with your recycling on a plastic trash bag, we end up emptying it out into the bucket of the machine, and it just slows the whole process down. But as I've said in the past, I couldn't be more pleased the way this is being accepted by the town of Swampscott. I do know it's an inconvenience to have to bring your recycling or your yard waste down. Residents of Swampscott had a tremendous amount of patience to wait in lines, sometimes up to 40 minutes. But we're doing the best we can, and we appreciate your patience. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay, questions for Gino?
Gino, is there any public update for the strike, any progress that's being made that you can report on?
Unfortunately not. So I meet bi-weekly with other administrators, managers, and mayors of the 14 affected communities on the North Shore, and it seemed to be in an impasse. Now, people have suggested maybe we get rid of them, hire another company, but I think they would have all the leverage on us right now, and to break in another company. The contract does expire in June of this year, so I guess
We still have a favorable contract.
we have a very
compared
favorable
to what the
contract.
market is bearing today.
Exactly.
And to be clear about the trash, DPW has been wonderful, but we've been keeping track of the cost, and we will pass that back to Republic for what it costs us to process the recycling and the obligations that they're not maintaining.
Absolutely. Yep, we're tracking that on a daily basis,
Great.
including police details. I'd like to thank the police for coming down and helping us out on a regular basis, controlling the traffic.
Very good.
Yeah, I have a couple questions. One is, when you met with Lee Zelder of EPA, was there any conversation at all about the possibility of getting flexibility of using low levels of chlorine?
No, that subject wasn't broached only because I knew what the answer. If we're going to chlorinate, whether it's low dose or high dose, they're still going to require us to dechlor at the other end.
Okay. And then the other question I have is on the RFQ for the Community Life Center.
Yes.
How, actually, Katie, you might, because you're the liaison on that one. So the concern that I have is spending additional funds, or even though the money's been allocated. The question I have is, how much work is this committee actually doing to try to figure out different places in town versus having to hire a consultant? I mean, it looks like we hire a consultant, the consultant is going to come in and say, okay, in your 3 square mile community, these are the places where you can put a community center. So that'd be great, we could put in a community center, but a community center is going to cost, if we're going to build something, cost between, I would say, $20 to $60 million. And my concern is that I really don't want to see us implement spending an RFP before having real solid goals on what we're going to do financially, because in our capital plan, I would like to make sure that we could see that this fits in if this is a desire, so.
Yeah, the committee has definitely done some groundwork to figure out what's available to us from a building perspective.
Right.
And then, but at the same time, you have to parallel track what the community needs are. And so a consultant will help determine, okay, so if the community need is, I'll say something outlandish, like, well, maybe it's not outlandish, but like a pool, for example, a community pool.
Mm-hmm.
If that's the need and we don't have a building that can create that, then the request might be, okay, well, the community needs don't fit the building. So I think part of it is that they have to, those two things have to work in tandem. Those conversations have to be had together. First to figure out what the needs are, and then to figure out, do we already have a building that meets those needs? Maybe we do, maybe we don't. And then are the needs so great that you would justify going forward and putting something before capital and saying like, yes, this need is so great in our, not just our community, but in neighboring communities, that it would be utilized to such a degree that it is worth it to spend the money. And so
Right.
part of this process is looking at the whole landscape and not just the small little piece of the senior center's outgrown and we don't really have something for teens and kids. So it's much greater than that. So hopefully you'll be satisfied with those things running in tandem, and I will absolutely remind the committee to keep those things in mind as they move forward.
Yeah, it's just coming up with great ideas that are going to sit on a
Yeah,
shelf for
and
15 years.
Nobody wants to spend
Yeah.
all this time and energy to come up with an idea we can't implement. So
Right.
I think there's a practical element to all these conversations.
Great.
So just a clarifying question, was it from the committee where we talked about a $20 to $60 million price tag, or, I mean, isn't that determined by whether we're constructing new or renovating, or?
Yeah.
That's from the?
Yeah.
That's from the work? Okay. I haven't followed it, so I
Yeah, let me circle back and I'll get the exact
okay,
answer to that data point. I don't remember it off the top of my head.
okay,
So,
fair enough.
No, I think it's just common sense. If we're going to build something,
it's,
if we're going to build something new, that's going to be close to over $60 million building. If we're going to renovate something, we're
Right.
looking, it's just, no matter what, we're looking at millions of dollars, and how does it fit into capital, that's all.
Fair.
anything else?
That's all I have.
Anyone else?
I just wanted to congratulate Sergeant Reine. It's long
Yes.
overdue.
Yeah.
And I want to thank Gino for actually getting it on the agenda and putting it up here, because it's long overdue. So congratulations, and thank you for what you do.
I was just wondering if there should be like a proper ceremony where the chief, you pin something? Could we maybe do that at our next meeting with family pictures and whatnot?
Just say a couple of words very quickly, if I could.
I'd love it.
Oh, yeah.
Would you
Please.
mind? Thank you. Yeah. No, don't press it. If you press it, that turns it off.
It's green.
First of all, I wouldn't be here if it weren't for my amazing fans. I have to be thankful. And this, when you're in law enforcement, it's a commitment from everyone in the family. Every step of the way, my family, my parents, my amazing wife, Cindy, Emma, Caroline. I'm grateful for that. I'm also incredibly thankful. Oh, I have to redo that. All those things. Just to say, I'm very grateful for being before you tonight. In law enforcement, you have to have an amazing supportive family, and I have that. Thank you to Sandy and Emma and Caroline, who've been with me every step of the way, as well as my parents and my extended family. It's a journey. It's been a long journey. The past 2 years have been long, but I'm grateful to be here before you tonight. Chief Casada, thank you. Thank you for your confidence in me. To the men and women of this amazing professional agency, thank you. I want to thank Lieutenant Hennessy, Lieutenant Frailer, Mike Kenyon, Officer Kenyon. They're here on their own time. That's what it means, and I appreciate that. Mr. Cresta, thank you. Your word is galvanized, and I appreciate that. What you've said and the amazing words you said, I almost couldn't believe it was me, but thank you. And I do appreciate your faithfulness to this community and your extended work, and I'm grateful for that. And for you, the Select Board, thank you for your diligence in your work and your patience, and thank you for your confidence in me, because I look forward to continuing to serve this amazing community, and I will do to the best of my ability. So thank you all. I appreciate that.
Thank you very much. All right, next on the agenda is public comment. We invite anybody to speak at public comment. I will just request you give your name, your address, and you will be kept to 3 minutes. I will keep time. And it's not personal, it's just fair. All right, go ahead. Mr. Patsios, please.
Charlie Patsios, 130 Atlantic Ave, here in Swampscott. I'm here today not in the capacity of one of the Board of Assessors, but a community, but I'm also speaking and have spoken to the board itself and our members and our assessor. So I'm here as a comment to you in regards to the Board of Assessors and the treatment that we've received thus far from this board. You've funded a position of $80,000 for a full-time assessor, and yet we haven't had anything occurring in that area. You're talking about spending $20 or $60 million and other expenses in this town. I'd like to remind you, as pointed as I possibly can, and still be respectful, that the assessing department sets values, you set the rate, and the clerk collector funds our the general fund. And that's the way this town operates. We don't have a full-time assessor, and we haven't had one for years. Our part-time assessor is doing a very good job, a valiant job, and I spoke with him today, and it's 3 to 5 years to catch up on the backlog that we have. I've asked him, what do we need for staff? He said, I need 1 full-time and 1 part-time, but we have 2 part-time positions, a part-time assistant and a part-time assessor. Our town runs on this. And you're funding it at $80,000, and it's woefully inadequate. I think you might have found that out when you went out there and you hired your rec director. You've hired a rec director ahead of an assessor. And I find that to be taking the captain off the deck of the Titanic. And the way I'm looking at this town right now, we're operating very dangerously. We are underfunded, and we get our funding from our taxes, aside from new growth. And that part-time assistant is in there looking at you mentioned $77,000 in permits. That part-time position goes and looks at that and also takes that into consideration when the part-time assessor tries to evaluate the properties in our town. And there are many, many mistakes. 3 to 5 years, not mine, Paul's estimate. And that's to catch up. I can recommend one thing to you. Fund the assessing position properly. And lastly, and I say this with a little bit of a smile, Sean Fitzgerald put a dunk tank in. I would like to see each one of you in that dunk tank, because I'll spend hundreds of dollars to dunk each of you. Thank you.
I believe he goes first.
Mr.
He goes
Demento.
first.
Here, Mr. Demento, I will bring the mic to you.
Yeah,
Please.
we have them all. Yeah. Oh, there's one right here.
Thank you, Marcy.
Marcy has one.
Thank you very much. Now I got to talk about the cheerleader. It's Bill Demento, 1008 Paradise Road, and I have 3 issues I'd like to bring up. And they're all easy issues. First is that there have been several vacancies on the Water and Sewer Advisory Committee. It's now going on 4 months. There can't be any good reason for a subject that is this important to the town and the millions of dollars we spend for not replacing these. And I'd like to urge this board, however it's done, to do it, because there's no good reason not to get that board going. They need additional members to function, and I hope you put that on your next agenda and get that done. The second issue is I happened to be on Pine Street today, and I suppose that's going to ask Gino to get someone down there with a weed whacker, because that is a town-owned lot, and it shouldn't look the way it looks now with the growth, and there's some junk, there's some trash inside on the property. So it would be nice if someone cleaned it up.
You were there Friday. Were you there today?
Pardon me?
Were you there today, really?
I was.
Okay. There was a crew down there Friday. It was weed whacking and picking
Well,
up.
they need to go back.
Okay, fair enough.
The third thing is the more important one, and that is at that last meeting that I watched where there was the discussion as to the appointment of the recreation director. I'm one of those people that think that wasn't so bad to have that in public discussion, because people could see the level of acrimony within the town, and many people have urged you all to find a way through that. Noticing that a motion for censure was on the agenda tonight and then removed at the last minute, I worry, with the past history of this board, that means you're moving it into executive session, which is the worst thing you can possibly do. This happened in public session, and the public saw it all. If there is going to be some action, which is solely up to the board whether there should be or not be on a censure, it should be in public. Otherwise, if it's over with, then just say it's over with rather than just take it off the agenda. That's my request, and I thank you for the time and the microphone.
Thank you. Ms. Wright, please. Yes.
Suzanne Wright, 6 Humphrey Terrace. I wasn't going to speak on this, but since Mr. Demento just brought it up, I want to thank Mr. Grisham for actually standing up and questioning that practice. And I know the tenor was crappy, and I know that the censure discussion was removed from the agenda. But I just also heard a rumor, not that it was going to be done in an executive session, but that there was going to be a vote taken tonight to change the amount of votes needed to do a censure, so that next meeting you could actually have a vote and for a censure or not. And I think that I'm just hoping for the integrity of this town and this board that rumor is not true, and that we're not doing that kind of gerrymandering in this town to make things go our way and changing the rules before a decision is made like that. But really, I'm rising for a completely different point. My comment is to support a financial summit. And I know that you guys all know, as a school committee member, I advocated for this when I was the chair. And I just want to advocate it for again, because I spent years on different committees and town boards, and working with Mr. Fitzgerald, managing and had interactions with him that were positive and negative, and all sorts of different kinds of experiences. But I never doubted once that his understanding and his proactive approach to fiscal planning was honestly probably the best thing that's ever happened to this town. And as a taxpayer, I agreed with his fiscal responsibility. As a school committee member, I was frustrated by this policy because, you know, I was always put in the position of begging for money for the school, right? And, but unfortunately, I also sort of understood that this fiscal policy was really important to the school and to the health of our school system, and it was essential to getting our new elementary school built. So ultimately, what we learned from each other and the boards and committees in this town through financial summits was essential to having the elementary school passed. And the work that Mr. Fitzgerald did was not in isolation. I mean, he made sure that all the collaterals, like the volunteer boards and committees in town, along with the town departments, we all knew in this financial summit what each other's pressures were, like current pressures and anticipated future pressures. And we really had open discussions about what we were all facing and how we were going to share the pie. And it was critical. And I think that if you're having discussion about if we're going to do this, I would say we better do this. And if you're having discussion about what the agenda should be, sorry, I have agendas from the 2018 and the 2021, and I was going to read them to you and tell you about what we discussed and how critical those same topics are today. And I just want to encourage this board to make sure we do this.
Thank you. Please.
I'm a Lynn resident. Would I be allowed to speak about the
You are, yes.
project?
You are allowed. Just state your name and your address. Thank you. Also, if I could, Suzanne, could you please, Suzanne, would you mind getting Diane those agendas, please? Oh, yeah. Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
Hi, Joe Negri, 10 Ocean Street in Lynn.
Speak in the microphone.
Don't be
Please.
shy, so everyone at home can hear.
Can you hear me now? So, I just want to address the town of Swampscott, which we were leaving Marblehead, Devereaux Beach, 30 years ago, and you know, before GPS and all that stuff. And we took a wrong turn, and we wound up in Swampscott at Hawthorne's restaurant, and we whipped around the corner, and there it was. You could see from Linshore Drive into Boston and beyond. And I grew up in Connecticut. My gal grew up in Long Island in New York, and we were like, what the hell is this? This is amazing. We had never seen anything like it before. So we've been here a long time. We feel very deeply about the town and the community. And I'm talking about the UV pilot, obviously, guys. So we're committed to clean water and doing things right. And the problem thus far with the UV pilot has been what we've heard here at select board meetings previously. There's been a lack of communication, a lack of transparency, and a lack of really getting communication and just consensus among the real stakeholders, which are the communities that are going to be most affected by anything that's done in an effort to address this 100-year-old problem. So, you know, that's been our problem. We've sent literally 100 emails to leadership, to Brendan Crichton, to Jenny Armani, to Seth Moulton, to the Select Board, to the Board of Health in Swampscott, to the Board of Health in Lynn, to the City Solicitor in Lynn. We've not received a single response from any of those emails or complaints or offers of detailed information. So, you know, right now, we're on our third diesel generator for the project, the third one. And we can only think that the third one that was installed today and is still operating at between 64 and 66 decibels at the nearest property line was put there to try and skirt the fact that the project is in violation of 310 CMR 7.10. It's the noise pollution standard for Massachusetts. Now, why are we there? We're there because Kleinfelter, in its report to Swampscott and Lynn in January 2025, didn't recognize the Massachusetts standard. They said that no one in the Swampscott didn't have a noise regulation and that Lynn's didn't specifically identify what the decibel level was.
If you wouldn't mind just finishing your thought.
Sure. So that's where the problem started. There wasn't an assessment of what the noise for the project could be. So who's responsible for that? I don't know. But there's been nothing done and no communication to the residents about how that's going to be addressed. And the thought with everyone in my immediate neighborhood is this is just trying to be played forward to get to the end of the project, and then everyone can herald it as a huge success. So that's the problem we have here. Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Peter Masucci, 25 Tupelo Road, Precinct 5, and I'm here on behalf of the Swampscott Tides, our town's new independent nonprofit newspaper. Thanks to the leadership of our president, Ann Driscoll, and my fellow board members, Tim Dorsey, Sandy Scheckman, Jonathan Fitzgerald, Claudia Luck, and tireless volunteers, we officially launched on May 9th. We've hired Monica Sager as our full-time editor and reporter, and in just under 3 months, she's published over 180 stories. Our site has seen over 24,000 page views, and our weekly email newsletter, Catch of the Week, is over 1,100 subscribers and growing. And just last week, we were honored by the Institute for Nonprofit News, which is the preeminent national organization for nonprofit news, and we were nominated as one of 3 national finalists for Startup of the Year. But I'm not here just to talk about what we've done. I'm here to talk about what we can do together. This paper would not exist without the support of this town. Generous donors have helped us launch with the mission of providing free, accessible news to everyone in Swampscott. In a time where information is power, we believe that it should be available to all. And the Tides is here to bring something this board and many other town leaders have talked about for years, and that is transparency and communication. And we can do this both by providing news to our residents, but also by offering a platform to the town's leadership to better communicate. To residents, we are the only journalistic outlet focused solely on Swampscott. And when the town encourages more people to sign up for red alerts, which I encourage everyone to do because the town does a really good job of informing people, we ask that you also turn to the Tides as a complement and subscribe, because we can add context, background, and reporting beyond just text messaging. And to the select board, who you guys have recently been unfairly criticized for not responding to public comment, which in fact your select board handbook says that you are not really allowed to respond to this environment. But while you can't necessarily engage here, you can engage with the Tides and to address any and all issues of importance to people in town. And this will promote more constructive civic engagement, and I think that's a goal we all share. Finally, as tonight's agenda promises a discussion about a new social media policy, I want to make one last appeal. We all want higher standards and better communication, something you guys have all talked about. And social media forums, no matter how well-intentioned, are often unmoderated and filled with unchecked opinion. Facebook is not where our elected leaders should be sharing information or even their own viewpoints on town matters. The Swampscott Tides is a member of the Institute for Nonprofit News. We follow the Society of Professional Journalists Code of Ethics. Our managing editor is a Northwestern graduate with national journalism experience and a commitment to reporting the news fairly and accurately. So the Swampscott Tides invites you all to build a relationship with us, to be the forum that you use to communicate with the constituents here in town. It's been an amazing 88 days thus far for the Tides, and we hope to serve this community together for decades to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Please.
Pam Knight, 16 Ocean Street. I'm also from Lynn, right across the street from our pilot program. I also have written to the state and local officials regarding the unrelenting, illegally loud noise at the UV pilot site. The decibel levels have been confirmed by J&A Noise Consultants. Despite the noble endeavor to clean the water, it has created a living nightmare for abutters who look forward to enjoying their homes during the limited summer months. Our beautiful neighborhood has been turned into a loud, unsightly sewage treatment plant. Sadly, I've had no constructive responses to the issue at hand. When confronted with the ongoing noise complaints, our only responses address the beach and the water, not the residents, their health, their peace of mind, the violation of their quiet enjoyment of home, or even the law. Please stop ignoring us and patting yourselves on the back at our expense. We want representation and enforcement of the law, not violation or validation of a project that should never have been approved with the levels of noise pollution it produces. The contractors, the consultants, and project representatives should be aware, should respect and enforce the laws of the Commonwealth of Mass regarding noise pollution and the covenant of quiet enjoyment. Noise pollution isn't just a mere side effect of the project, it's a significant health hazard. While endeavoring to correct one environmental hazard, your acquiescence is contributing to another. The noise is particularly egregious during the early evening and overnight. Surely the project could have some daily downtime and study the results of that. You might even find the results produce the same or even similar outcomes with a cost savings. No one's looked at that. In all conscience, how can Swampscott ban gas leaf blowers and then think it's okay to subject an entire neighborhood to noise pollution 24/7? Are discussions ongoing to minimize the noise, or at least give us an evening or an overnight reprieve? I know you want to ignore these noise complaints. You just want the project to finish. But we don't have that option. It's our home. And another month is a long time, especially to us as the summer wanes. Thank you.
Thank you. Please. Oh.
Katie Arrington, 40 Roy Street, member of the Finance Committee, speaking as an individual. There's been a lot of bluster and noise about the rec director, and I was at the last meeting, and things were said and it was contentious. But what I found truly telling was that to procure censorship of an individual, you first have to amend a code of conduct. Thank you.
Dan Santinello, Supreme Court. I just wanted to come here. I was a selectman for 18 years, and what I witnessed at the last meeting was something that I hadn't seen probably all that time. A certain board member tried to embarrass our town administrator, and I just couldn't sit there and ignore it. I had to come and just express my support for Mr. Cresta and the board members that stood up and supported him. I think it was very admirable of them. And I think the town supports you, Mr. Cresta. There's been a lot of talk about it, and you know, we didn't agree on all things when I was on the board, but we certainly didn't resort to try to embarrass somebody in front of the town, in front of their families, in front of the other board members. It just wasn't the right thing to do, and I just had to get that off my chest because I was really, really embarrassed to see such a thing. Thank you.
Please.
Hello all, and thank you for the opportunity. My name is Stephen Iannacone, 26 Rock Ave in Swampscott. I wasn't planning to speak tonight, but when I heard what I heard from the new town newspaper representative, I couldn't help but want to say something in response. In the media, which seeks to restrict how people communicate to become the sole source of information, allows censorship of viewpoint and loss of freedom of speech. Although I applaud the effort of the Tides as a newspaper, we need one. We need a town investigative newspaper that will look into all of the town's activities and provide us with objective, as much as possible, viewpoints. But it doesn't need to be the only source. And I do run a monitored Facebook group. People have their problems with the group. But it is there, and it does allow people to express opposing points of view that was particularly helpful when this committee was formed by different people. So I want to maintain the fact that freedom of speech is our best way to assure that the rest of our freedoms are maintained. I agree that our press needs to have access to the elected officials of the town, but there's no reason for them or for anyone else to look at only one organ of communication as the means of communicating to the residents who live here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Please.
Hello, my name is Pam Padavani. I live at 11 Eastern Avenue in Swampscott, Mass., although I pay taxes to both Lynn and Swampscott. I've spoken before at some of the meetings regarding the UV pilot program, and what I've said is that I believe anyone can put up with anything for 90 days, although what we are putting up with isn't exactly what has been proposed. It is like being an industrial site. It has become a lot more monstrous in size. The safety, every day walking across the street, trying to come back, watching the cars not be able to see at the four-way stop, and obviously the noise levels are ridiculous. I mean, I realize that some people think that our little community around those islands are acting like children and that we're complaining, but it has become very invasive. And what's more concerning is that I don't think there's the project has a plan. And from the beginning, that has bothered me. My house is my biggest asset, and I was told that this project would not be on this site. Now I'm hearing that there's a possibility that this plant will be permanently in this site. I just don't understand how this much money was put into a project, and there was no projection of where the permanent site might be so that we could be transparent to the neighborhood and let us know, should I be selling my house now? Should I get out? Because if this is going to be this industrial site that it is now, obviously my home value is going to go down tremendously. My neighbors are very upset. I'm trying to be very diplomatic because I'm not a person who gets upset. I really believe that everything can be done and compromises can be made so that we can get the results that we want, which is a clean beach, a happy, healthy, fun place for us all to enjoy. But I don't think it has to be at the, a point where people are not sleeping and really feeling, like their life is being so interrupted. There can always be ways around the problems. And I don't think that's what's happening here. I think we are being ignored. I do believe people are trying, but it's just not a great situation right now. And Gino, you know, I think you're the best. I believe in you. But I do believe that we need to look a little deeper in this before a permanent site is made. I want to see a committee, a steering committee, and I want to see all the options and a lot of transparency. And I would love to be on the committee. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, please.
Hi, I'm Dave Aldrich. I live in the Bagel Bus. And I just want to say that I think doing business in Swampscott is a privilege. And it's an honor to be at the farmer's market. And it's an honor to give back to the community. And I also want to point out that I had a small little hiccup this week. And I went to the town, and for the last 3 years, every single trip to the town hall has been a delight. And I've gotten great results, fair results, thoughtful results, and it was no exception this week with Gino and his team. So it's a privilege to serve Swampscott. There's a billion great people here, and we hope we have a long, long history here. And I just want to say thanks, and thanks for your leadership and your guidance.
Okay. Well, I guess we're stopping on a high note. Thank you for that. And we will move on, if there's no additional public comment, to appointment of the new town planner. Gino, you ready?
Nope.
This has been a long time coming, so.
Still trying to sort some of this stuff. Yep.
Stand by for a second.
Do we have it in here? Krista, well. Do we come up with anything?
It's in there.
It's in there? Oh, it should have been at the front.
You want mine?
Yeah, please. Thank you. My apologies, Krista. She was great. So, we had a vacancy with the senior planner, and we seemed like we had that vacancy forever and a day, right? We talked about it here. Finally, we had a very qualified candidate that came for us. She was vetted through HR, Marzi, and then Marzi and I met with you a week ago. I was impressed with your resume. I was impressed the way you carried yourself. And I think you're going to be a great addition to the town of Swampscott.
Very good. Does anybody have any questions, or would you like to say anything? You don't have to. There's no pressure.
Yeah.
Is that on? Should be.
Hello.
There you are.
Great. Good evening. So my name is Krista McGaha, and I'm honored to be joining the town of Swampscott as your new senior planner. I come with a background of over 10 years of experience in GIS and planning in both the public and private sectors. So this includes municipal planning at city and county levels with a focus in zoning, land use, and community engagement. And I'm truly excited to bring my experience to Swampscott and to collaborate with town staff and boards on projects that contribute to the town's future. I'm grateful for this opportunity, and I'm very excited to get started. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody on the board?
I just want to say, I am so excited that you are here. And I think it was not the last town meeting, but the town meeting before that, where we had like a little uprising from the audience expecting a good town planner. And I think from looking at your resume, it looks like the wait was worth it. So thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. Looking forward to it.
Welcome.
Yeah, welcome to Swampscott.
Thank you.
And your start date is next Monday?
Yes.
The 11th?
The 11th.
Okay.
Excellent.
Okay, very good. We will move on to new and old business. I just want to note that item 2, the fourth quarter discussion, is being tabled to next week. So that will not be discussed tonight, but we will start with the year-end department updates with, I guess we'll start with DPW.
Well, actually, I think that was maybe a mistake. We're going to go with fire, police department.
Yes, so I think DPW is
It's next.
DPW is next week?
Next, gonna
is
be in 2
next
weeks.
week.
Yep.
Or, sorry, next meeting. So we do have a fire update in our packet.
I was going to read.
I'll read it off because Chief Archer is on vacation. The Internal Ladder Truck Committee has been meeting with representatives of Allegiance Specialty Vehicles, the area representative for Pierce Fire Apparatus, to begin to lay out the specifications for the new Ladder 21, just in time as the current Ladder 21 has suffered a number of mechanical breakdowns and ongoing maintenance, certain to become increasingly costly. So they're working on that. Our fourth newest firefighter, Kyrie. Our four newest firefighters, Kyrie, Joshua Mora, Matthew Payne, Zoa Silva Landry, are headed off to the Mass Firefighter Academy for 10 weeks of intensive training. Good luck to them. Chief Archer has been working with the newly contracted ambulance service provider, Beauport, to facilitate a seamless transition from our current provider to them. The anticipated start date for Beauport takeover is August 15th. The fire department will begin another round of interviews for new recruits, and hiring will begin they will be hiring approximately 4 new probationary firefighters this fall. That is the chief's update. If anybody has questions for the chief, we can email him and he can get back to us, but hope he's enjoying his time off. The police department, if you don't mind, we'll have you go next.
Okay.
Yes, thank you, Chief.
I'm sad to see half the crowd leave before my, my presentation.
Don't take it
listen to
personally,
me.
we never do.
I want to give a high-level overview of the police department for end of year 24.
Great.
So I've put together I say quick, I'll make sure and be quick, a quick little PowerPoint on our current status of everything that we have going on and our end of year statistics from last year. Like Mr. Cresta said, we do have 5 current, if you look at the organizational chart, we do have 5 current vacancies. Luckily, or thankfully, with the help of my team, we have hired a lateral officer who will be starting next week, I believe, on the 18th, might be 2 weeks from now. And we also gave a conditional offer of employment to a new applicant. So that leaves us with 3 vacancies. Again, with the lateral officer, that individual will help us make an impact on the street because we are short-staffed right now, to put it blunt. Again, we have 5 current vacancies. We also have two positions that are on extended or leave, injury, sick, illness. So that has put a strain on our staffing levels. And I'm happy to answer questions at any time if you have. So I just put together on the next slide, Diane, just so you can see over time, since 2019, those Swampscott officers who have left or separated from employment, and those who we have hired since that time, also since 2019.
Does this include retired? When you say
Yes.
vacated? Yeah.
Yes. Retired or left and transferred to another police department.
Mm-hmm.
So over the years, looking at our call volume for our police department, last year our police department answered 17,981 calls for service. If you look at the average over the years, it's typically a little bit higher, especially pre-COVID 2020. I would also say that is in response to, we have also decreased our staffing levels since 2022, where we now have 25% less officers working. That is in effect to become more efficient, as well as it's still, it makes, we're trying to get the Goldilocks, make it the sweet spot of the number of officers that we need to answer our calls for service and be proactive, but at the same time ensure that our officers are safe out there while doing their jobs.
Again, we have 4 officers on shift, each and every shift, but between Labor Day, Memorial Day, and Labor Day, we will typically have 5 officers during the summers on Saturdays and Sundays, because there is a great influx of traffic and population because of our wonderful beaches. The next slide is a high-level overview of our Part A crime statistics. The FBI classifies the National Incident-Based Reporting System is the number of incidents that we report to the FBI for our year of end stats. As you see, if you look, I won't go over every offense. There are 2 categories, Part A and Part B crimes that the FBI classifies. They are essentially any crimes against persons, any crimes against property, or a crime against society. If you look at the overall numbers, our property crimes are on the rise, wow, on the uptick. So, that tells us as a police department, as the chief, we need to start being more proactive in addressing burglaries, auto thefts, motor vehicle thefts, larcenies. That's just something that we need to be cognizant of. Next slide. Again, we answered 17,981 calls for service. Of those, 287 of those calls were 911 calls that came in last year. Typically, our response time approximately is 5 to 6 minutes for any call. But again, it depends how busy of a shift that we might have. Our officers wrote 1,057 reports. Those are investigations. Conducted 1,891 motor vehicle stops. Wrote 1,604 citations. We talk about traffic and accidents and pedestrian safety. They responded to 160 traffic accidents. They wrote 689 parking citations. We had 74 animal calls, 157 arrests, and approximately 15,000 non-emergency business line calls. So even though we contract with Lynn and they take all our 911 calls, well, you can see how many 911 calls they take, 287. We're taking the majority of those. That's why we have an officer in the station answering those phone calls, essentially directing our officers where they need to be, where they need to go. And approximately 7,000 walk-in requests. So that comes out to about 130 walk-ins every week where somebody comes in and says, hey, I just want to know about getting my license to carry, or I want to file a restraining order. Anything, those are additional duties that we have to handle. Next slide.
Wait, before you move to the next slide, I just want to note you skipped what I view as the most important one.
Yes, I did. I just realized that. So this is the most important. Has been one of the most important things to me in community engagement. So part of being safe out there is also knowing Officer Kevin Reine, Sergeant Brendan Reine, the people who live in our community, and also are part of the police department. So when you see us, we now keep track of that, and I'll pat my departments on the back, pat them on the back for. We make it a concerted effort every shift to, if the school is having an event, if one of our churches is having an event, we will be there. We may not be able to stay there long, but you will see, you'll at least be able to put a name to a face of an officer. And so to me, that is one of the most important things that we can do. I would like to double that if I could. So to me, that's that's one of the most important things. When you see Officer Wilson and Sora out there reading to the kids, like Kevin has gone out there, like I've been out, like that is literally what every one of our officers are doing. So thank you for pointing that out. Next slide. We only have 2 people and 2 detectives in criminal investigations. 2 people. One of those detectives spends 50% of their time in court. So every time we have an arrest, every time we summons someone to Lynn District Court, that detective is there and presenting on behalf of the case. So we have, of our 1.5 detectives, we conducted 10 search warrants last year. And I won't list out every one of them, but it is things that our community might not always see and may not even know that, hey, we did 3 search warrants for a breaking and entering case, drugs that are happening in our community that is important, that while you may not always see it, it's still out there. And so we still have to be aware and cognizant, and we are definitely investigating those crimes. They had 11 arrest warrants, 30 arrests. Of those 30 arrests, those make up also of our total number of 157 arrests that we had last year. So it could be in reference to a search warrant. It could be, typically with CID, it's something involved with some type of investigation. They're still working the 1974 cold case murder homicide with the Massachusetts State Police. We do have current drug investigations that we are investigating. And just moving on to Harbor Master. Harbor Master is one of the most, I would say, unsung heroes in our department. There are so many calls that our harbor master and our team get that it's just like every weekend there's something. There's 11 calls of. I'll have to talk to my person who put this PowerPoint together. It's not boat talking on water, it's boat taking on water. That was me, by the way. 11 of those calls where the boat is potentially run aground. Persons in distress, there's a mooring issue. They contact the harbor master. The harbor master has to go out there and respond. Kayakers, check kayakers, and again, like I said, boat running aground. The harbor master manages approximately 143 residential mooring permits, with 25 of those being non-residential mooring permits. Next slide, please. Traffic safety. That should probably be at the top, the front of the list. Officer Kevin Reine is here as well to discuss any traffic safety. But if you look at traffic safety has been probably our top 1 or 2 priorities in the police department. I mean, we look at the school, the Swampscott Elementary School, the contentious meetings that we had about switching it to the neighborhood to a one-way, being out there during the first 2-3 months of the school every day to ensure that our kids are safe, helping in reverting Reddington and the surrounding area back to a 2-way street. That takes a lot of time and resources, and I just want to thank Officer Reine, Officer Wilson, and our patrol officers who are out there helping distribute flyers, notifying the community. It is a lot of work. I also included a lot of other things that our traffic unit has done, including improved signage for certain areas, new speed limit signs, and working with Mr. Cresta and the DPW. It's been seamless, but it's still been a little bit of a lift just to ensure that it's not just the police department doing this. It is community development. It is DPW. It is all of us working together. We've added stop signs at Humphrey and Atlantic. We added rapid flashing beacons along that busy street, along Humphrey and Orchard, near the school. We've conducted a bicycle safety event where 40 helmets were distributed to the kids in the community, and we also have more coming, because I know Mr. Patsios, I don't think he's here, but has donated bikes for our kids in the community as well. So we thank him for that. We also had local businesses line up and conduct free bicycle safety checks for the kids. We attained a grant, the Municipal Road Safety Traffic Grant, where we can have additional enforcement measures for certain areas, pedestrians in crosswalks, OUI enforcement. Unfortunately, this year, it's been very hard to get to that because of our staffing levels. Because first and foremost, if we have a need on the shift, we have to fill that first. Another unsung hero in our department has been Lieutenant Frailer in our records department. He has received and responded to over 1,160 records requests. Every year, it's 1,000 plus. Of those requests, 90 are body-worn cameras. Body-worn cameras are a benefit to us and to the police department and to the town. But once we start receiving those requests, those body-worn camera requests, it takes an incredible amount of time to ensure that we are redacting that camera footage. We had 150 license to carry requests, applications, suspensions, renewals. Every time, it's something that is not necessarily quantified in time, but I might get a case where someone was arrested. Now I have to, with the help of my license to the LTC lieutenant, have to go about, okay, that person may need to be suspended. Now we have the after action of going to court and telling the court why we believe this person should or should not, their license should be suspended to carry a gun. So that takes it's just a lot of extra time that I can't always log into, into my database like, hey, I spent 2 hours today at Lynn District Court, and as well as my lieutenant. Another thing, special events, and I know Diane is tired of hearing me say this. Every special event that we get, to include our 24 one-day liquor licenses, our 16 neighborhood block parties last year, our Ford yard sale permits, our 5 road race, we are not just signing it, saying, yeah, it's cool, you can have your event. We have to review, where is the event happening? How many people are being affected by this event? Is traffic being affected? Is there any threats to any of the pedestrians? It takes a lot of time and man hours in just reviewing each and every event. God forbid something awful happens, we have reviewed that. So it's incumbent upon us to ensure that we're doing everything that we can to ensure that these are going to be safe events. Again, additional security reviews, just like our events that we have in town. Our farmers market, you see us stop by. Not only are we stopping by for community engagement, but we're there for a reason. What did it look like this Sunday? How many people were there? Were there any traffic issues? Because that is all reported back to my office. Strawberry Festival, the Humphrey Block Party, which is going to be amazing this week. It takes a lot of time and effort to ensure that there is security in place. Again, not just police, with DPW, with community development, with fire department. So it's a all hands on deck. But it takes a lot of time. Next slide, please. And just pretty much rounding out our some more accomplishments. We completed our successful Massachusetts Police Accreditation Commission. That is to ensure that our police department is up to best standards in over 178 policies. So everything that we do, we have a policy on. Everything that we do. And so that not only decreases the liability for the town, but it also ensures that we are doing everything that any police department in the country is doing in terms of best standards. And we successfully achieved that through our team of officers. And it was, the best way to put it is, if you were to put one person full-time, it would take one person full-time, 40 hours a week, for 6 months to ensure that all policies and proofs of compliance are met. It's not just, oh, you're doing this, check off. It is providing proofs of compliance, showing the policies, and it's just a lot of work. We had, I don't want to forget, We've had a lot of exceptional officers this year, this past year, but of the formal recognition by an outside organization, Sergeant Luck, Officer Kenyon, and Officer Sebi Caruso were awarded special recognition for their life-saving efforts. The gentleman who had fallen down and was potentially having a stroke or heart attack at the post office last year. It was covered in the line item. I just, again, I cannot say enough great things about our officers who are out there each and every day handling these type of things that you might not even hear about it all the time. And so, to me, that's very important. Mental health, we had 63 documented calls of a person in distress having, we call it person in crisis calls. It may be a child, it may be an adult, it may be, those are the calls that take, I think Sergeant Reine had talked about it, on average, what was the number of minutes? 38 minutes with at least 2 officers handling somebody who is, thank you, somebody who is in a crisis. And it's more than just to be in crisis. It is just because we're there, we don't want to be the Band-Aid to that crisis. So part of that is the follow-up that happens thanks to our grant that we share with Linfield Police Department. We have a person 10 hours a week who comes and, as well as our mental health task force team, will go out and go to ensure that the individual has the services they need for whether it be addiction, whether it be for psychological, any type of help that they might need. And so that is the most important of continuing that care. It's not just a one-time event. We did have 7 overdoses last year. That is not only traumatic for the families, but it's traumatizing for our officers. It's one of the things that we are working on ensuring that we have some sort of victim assistance program where typically it's volunteers who will come out and just speak to somebody who has lost a loved one, we have a lot of medical calls that require, the individuals are at the worst time of their life, and they just need someone that needs to be there and try to guide them and support them. So, that's what we're looking, that's what we're always trying to ensure that we're doing. Again, a list of, community forums, community engagements that we conduct. Last year, we had a one-day youth leadership summit that was attended by Representative Armini and Brendan Crichton, and that was, it's always a success, and it's one of those things that we have the kids who are coming in from the schools with the help of Officer Wilson, and it's just teaching them about the police department, about bicycle safety. It is the things that are important that we need to, mentor our children. We have our one day, we call it the DARE Camp, but we send on average 15 Swampscott children a year to this Essex County Summer Day program. And it's a 1-week program where we are involved, as well as several North Shore police departments that we are there. And it's kind of like our youth leadership camp, but it's even bigger because it's a week long. So we pay for the children to be there, and it's just an incredible program. Every year we've been doing it for many years. I can't even tell you, maybe 10 years, maybe if not more. We have Sergeant Brendan Reine has put this together, our overdose prevention summit, and that is where we go out. We talk to the community, we give resources, and we also have a keynote speaker involved that talks about the realities of overdose, opioid addiction. We have our All Faiths meeting where we come together as a community. we might, regardless if we have an incident or not, we've had several anti-Semitic incidents where we will come together and we'll talk about it. We'll discuss what we can all start doing as a community to ensure that this doesn't happen again. Again, some of our other events, our Black History Month celebration, our Juneteenth celebration, our Christmas parades, our monthly meetings with the Shore Diversity team, our Touch a Truck events, and I can't say enough for the level of compassion that our department has shown me, coming from larger police department, larger city, that it really is about our community. So I can't, whatever questions you might have, I'll be happy to answer, especially about hiring. We're happy to answer, but I'm proud of my department.
Thank you,
Thank
Chief.
you.
We'll take questions from the board. Want to start, Mary?
I have a couple questions. So you've identified one retirement that will be happening in January that you already have locked in, but out of, how many are you vulnerable to? Because you don't, what is it? They just have to notify you a couple weeks in advance?
Yeah, there's no formal, I mean, if you're leaving employment, it's really on the individual.
Right.
So everybody, I typically get at least a 2-week
Right.
advance notice.
And so out of your pool of officers, other than the one that's already let you know that they're leaving and retiring in January, how many here can possibly retire?
I have another one who can leave at any time.
Right.
And then I have another, potentially 2, who will probably leave in another year or year and a half.
Okay. And
then, again, we're losing officers to other departments.
And then the next, wanted to ask you is, at what point, with the community growing in population, the one thing that's been on my mind, at what point do we need to start adding staff? Like you have a labor force, I think it's 33?
32.
32. And then at what point do you have to look at some of the statistics to say, you know what, maybe we need 33, 34, 35 to really figure out how do you get proper coverage? Now, about 8 years ago, we did do a study we double-checked to see, should we be hiring more or should we be using more overtime? What was going to be the best financially beneficial for the community? And it looked like just leave it the way it was, status quo. But at what point do we revisit that? And I'm looking at the call list, and it looks like the call list is going down from 21, 22, just consistently going down. However, it does look like if you're having to do more work, for example, in the back end with double checking the cameras, the administrative stuff, I'm just trying to find out at what point do we start to really identify the department is short and we have to increase that?
Sure. I think to your first point, I know in speaking to the Massachusetts Chiefs of Police Association and many fellow colleague chiefs, what they're starting to do, and I'm excited about the planner as well, because what we are doing what the towns and cities are doing at the initial stages is when there is a development that is being incorporated, built into the town or city, typically what has been starting to happen is the town or city will say, hey, that's going to require at least one firefighter and one police officer, additional police officer, because there is going to be an influx of calls for service just for that community. And I think there was one, and I don't have the statistics with me, but there was one a few years ago on Paradise that now the calls for service were up exponentially.
Yeah.
So that it does go to your point that yes, if you look at these times over the years when we answered more calls for service, we also had more officers on staff. So now what may happen is you'll call the police department. Well, if the police are tied up on a person in crisis call and an accident at the same time, we don't have anybody going to the call necessarily that, hey, there's juveniles disturbing on the pier. We will get there, but that is again that we need to hit the sweet spot of being financially responsible, fiscally responsible, but at the same time, ensuring that every resident who calls the police department gets the service that they deserve. So that's always in flux, but I appreciate the question, because that is something that I would hope that we start looking at.
And my last question is, so we outsource our 911 to Lynn, and how much do we pay them, and
I believe
is that a 3-year contract?
It is a 3-year contract. I believe it's approximately
Is it 80?
$275,000.
275?
Is that annually, or is that for the 3-year contract?
I think that's for the 3-year contract, I believe.
Yeah. I think didn't we just renew that? Didn't
We renewed it last year.
Renewed it last year.
Yes, we did, yes.
Danielle, David, questions for the chief?
Not so much as a question as a comment. I think we talk a lot about building community in this town, and your team is second to none. And that's because of you, primarily. And I am grateful to have you. I'm proud to have you, all of your men and women. And every single event in this town, you will see the police, or a representation of the police at that event. Whether it's a school event, a community event, a town event. Whatever we ask you to do, you're there. And there's a lot to be said for that. And I just really appreciate it. And I have obviously personally interacted with a lot of your department and you on a regular basis, and I'm just incredibly proud to have you all working and representing this town. I mean, next to the DPW, you're the gem and the crown
Yes.
of Swampscott. Quite honestly, you're the unsung heroes here.
I think we're becoming one and the same, so we're going to start wearing uniforms on the DPW guys soon. And I just want to also add, I didn't even talk about Sora and Brian Wilson.
Right.
And they have just been extraordinary in our community engagement efforts. So it's, I didn't highlight them, but there's so much.
They're infamous, famous on their own.
Well, the picture's in there. Sora's picture, not
Sora's
Brian,
picture.
not Officer Wilson's.
Well, it's nicer.
It's better to
I'll
have
agree with you on that.
Sora on there.
We gave you some tough tasks this year with the new elementary school, the traffic, all of that. We're changing parking here. We're putting no parking here. We're doing a lot of things, and you guys are always so quick to act.
A lot of balls in the air, so I'm thankful.
Handle, work with us and the residents, and I just really thank you all.
Thank you.
For what you do. It's appreciated.
Thank you.
David? You good?
I'm good.
Okay, I have a couple of things. One, I will echo what Danielle says. Every time you come in, I say the same thing, and I'll say it again until I'm blue in the face, which is having you guys be proactive with the way you engage with our community reduces calls, reduces anxiety when calls come, reduces tension in the air when you have to be there. You get put in the worst situations in town, and you are being proactive to make those situations better before you even get there. And you understand that, and I understand that, and I appreciate that you understand that, because the fact that you can walk up to a troublesome situation and see an officer it immediately changes the tenor of how you interact. And it's just, it can't go unrecognized, because the more you interact with our community at the farmers markets and other things, the easier your job, not saying it's easy, but the easier it gets when you're in those really tough situations, and you're trying to either break something up or have a conversation with people who are at their highest to bring it down. And so I really appreciate that. And just the interaction with our children, like to have positive interaction with police at any level, especially young, and to understand, the level of respect they deserve, but also that they're part of your community and that they're here for a reason. It's just, paramount to what makes our community so great. So really appreciate that. Couple of things. One, I've gotten quite a few emails about the dock fishing and the boating related to the harbor. I know there's been some emails going back and forth maybe about fishing off the dock and youth on the dock and boater safety, and when youth are on the dock lying out, it's like a rite of passage in Swampscott, right? But when boaters are approaching and they're trying to tie off and people are getting on and off, and it can be an unsafe situation. So if we could just maybe try to figure out what we can do to help that situation for our residents to still enjoy life harborside, but also for our boats to be safe. I think fishing is also, there's lines everywhere sometimes, and people are casting. It could be quite dangerous with the kids trying to get on and off the boats. So I just want to, I know a couple of residents have brought it up, and if it's something we can circle back to soon, that would be great.
Thank you. Point well taken. I'll make sure
okay,
and
thank
ensure
you.
talk to the harbor master as well.
I know he's on it.
Yeah, I know.
It's not a criticism, just to bring it to a higher level. I want to thank you for your activity at the No Kings demonstration. There were a lot of people. I was not here, but I saw pictures of the sea of crowd of people, and the fact that there were no incidences is, you know, just a testament to our community and you guys. But I do know that we've reached out to at the state level because we had some state officials walk in and it required some additional safety measures. And we have asked for some help with the cost of those safety measures. Have we heard back from anybody about that?
With the cost, so I'm.
So I think we had to add a
Reimbursement from
couple
the state.
additional.
David had brought
We,
that up.
we did have, we had four, I believe, four individuals from NEMLIC, that's the regional team, Northeastern Massachusetts Law Enforcement Council. That was no charge.
Okay, great.
That was no charge to
I think
us,
we were looking for
because
Seth
we are
Moulton's
part of.
office.
Yeah, I think we reached out to Seth Moulton's office and just asked, given the fact that he was here, we, you know, wanted to keep everything safe and in order that there was some cost sharing involved there. So if we haven't heard back, we haven't heard back, and
We
we'll
have
reach
not.
back out to Seth.
I have not.
Okay. And the last thing, the records requests. And this is something we don't really have a way around. We have to comply, and you have to comply in a certain manner, in a certain timely fashion. And if you don't, there are repercussions for that. And it's something your department handles, but thinking of being proactive about the fact that this is, the requests are only gonna get greater, right? Because
Yes.
now we have body cameras and FOIA requests have been getting greater. What can we put in place to help that be more efficient? And whether it's a program or whether there is no answer and we're at peak efficiency, that might be the case. But it just feels like we don't always have the state-of-the-art abilities in the police department. You guys work on some shoestring budgets for those types of things. So I want to make sure that we're not cutting off our nose to spite our face and having an officer spend the time that they need to get it done, when we could invest in a program that would help get it done faster, that would get that officer back out to the community.
I think that so we've been working with Jared and the town clerk's office about software.
Okay.
Unfortunately, there are different kinds of software, and from my previous experience, there are police records software as compared to what might be different from a regular, I guess, town software, because we handle sensitive information. It just becomes, we need to keep a record of what we sent by having a software program in place, and especially specific to what we do in the police department would be beneficial, because it would save us time in if say 4 people in an accident call for a public records request for the accident, I have to redact 4 different ways, and I have to keep track of what I redacted and who I sent to what, and to ensure that we're complying with Mass General Law in the 30 days of sending it back to an individual. So I think that if we had software that was specific to our operations in the police department, I think that would be beneficial. It's going to be beneficial to have a software program in place, but it's not entirely exactly what we need from the police department standpoint.
Okay. That's all I had. Thank you very much. Oh, I'm sorry, Doug. My apologies. Go ahead.
No problem. Yeah, I just want to echo what both Katie and Danielle said about the appreciation for all that you all do. It's incredible. And I actually was going the same place Katie was in terms of the FOIA requests. Glad to hear about the research. It's hard to believe in this day and age with AI and other programs that some best practices don't exist for increasing the efficiency in that regard. So I'd love to, hear about what the possibilities are there, and just more generally, some kind of benchmarking. I'm not sure if I missed it, but the benchmarking of the number of arrests we have, the level of crime we have, and versus the number of resources that we have, as we continue to focus on, unfortunately, need to be very focused on the financial pressures that we're under. And understanding kind of what those, benchmarks are in terms of number of personnel versus crime levels, et cetera. So don't expect you to have any answers right now, Chief, but we need to obviously continue to look into that and find a way to continue to provide the incredible level of service, but keep finding those, marginal improvements in the way that we deploy our resources. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Doug. There are AI-powered tools out there, but I think it would make you sick to your stomach how much they cost. So they're out there. In fact, I believe, in speaking to the Lynn Police Chief, they were considering it. I don't know where they're at now because there was a hefty price tag. So there are those technologies out there. It would be very expensive, and I don't know if it would be completely worthwhile for us in a smaller town as compared to maybe a Lynn Police Department. But again, it's extremely costly.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Last but certainly not least, on our year-end report list is community development. We have Marzi. Thank you for joining.
Great, thank you. Thank you for having me this evening. Chief, this is quite the tough act to follow. I apologize that I'm not prepared with a PowerPoint. I thought we could just have an open discussion and just tell you a little bit more about community development.
He's an overachiever, Marzi. You're fine.
Yeah, it certainly is. Thank you. That was a great presentation. So as you know, the Office of Community and Economic Development, we, along with the Planning Board, are the we play a key role in economic development and growth in the town of Swampscott. Our staff provides support to most, if not a lot, of the land use boards that we have in town, and we work collaboratively with residents, with the business community, with obviously other town departments in regards to growth or any initiatives that we have ongoing. This has been a very busy year for us. I'm glad thank you so much for appointing Krista as a new planner. It's really exciting to definitely have hopefully our staff to be back up to full acuity. We're actually interviewing for the position of land use planner, so hopefully we'll be able to do a lot more implementation of projects, really looking at our planning documents, planning tools, to really look at the implementation. We do an amazing job with planning for the future, so I think it's really time to start to implement some of the visions that we had created with our residents, with the community boards, and obviously with your guidance. Some of the significant or noteworthy projects that have been ongoing, as you know, is the redevelopment of Hadley as well as Pine Street. With your assistance and assistance with Gino, we're able to sign, we're almost finalizing the land disposition agreements, the lease agreements, so this is something that hopefully we'll see a lot more movement with those two projects this year. We're finalizing almost the ground lease, and like others with the Hadley, the developer is very excited to be partner, to have a business and to bring the development into the town. And we're fortunate once again to work with B'nai B'rith on the redevelopment of the Pine Street projects for affordable housing. As you know, they received the project eligibility letter from the state, and they will be submitting their comprehensive permit most likely by the end of August. So I was glad that Heather's here today. We'll follow up with you because the plan is to bring the comprehensive permit to the ZBA, and then we'll also work collaboratively trying to get some grant funding to once again provide us with some assistance through the process. As you know, we haven't really had a lot of 40B projects, even friendly 40B projects. So we want to make sure that the interest of the towns are represented. Even though it is a friendly 40B project, we want to assure that we have the policies in place and provide the support to the ZBA to have a decision that will be something that will result in a great, great project. As you know, one of the functions that our department has done is to seek grant funding. This year alone, or up to date, right now, I want to say we secured close to $500,000 in grant funding. Some of the projects that we're able to secure funding for was $100,000 from the MVP2 program, which is deals with resiliency and projects to address rising sea levels and how we prepare ourselves. So that's something that's ongoing. We were able to secure a little bit over $95,000 from the Coal Corridors tree grants. You probably have seen the new trees that were planted by the train station, at Clark's Park, behind the new school, at Phillips Park, and we still have a couple more that we need to plant. So again, these are collaborations with my department and like the tree committee and others, and of course Gino and his assistants for everything that we do. We actually secured $60,000 for Community First Partnership to continue our offer energy audits, free energy audits to our residents. So that's been a great program. We secured $113,000 for construction of walking paths at Archer Street Playground. Archer Street Woods, the newly acquired land. We just completed the design. We'll be going out to bid probably within the next couple of weeks. So we should probably have an update for you in regards to the responses and who the contractor might be for the project. So that's very excited. We secured funding to update a hazard mitigation plan. That's something that's required, and that was about $20,000. We received funding to undertake and complete a master plan, and that was about $130,000 in grant funding. So as I stated, collectively, it was close to $500,000 in funding that we brought in. We also submitted a grant application to replace the safety surfacing at Clark Playground, and that's in the we're calling it sort of like phase 2 maybe for that project. You recall 2 years ago now, we completed the tot lot area, the smaller section closer to Paradise. We are able to resurface the tennis court, and now we're focusing on the second, the larger sort of play structures area. The equipment is in a good condition, so as you probably have heard, Gino's very conservative. We thought we can leave the equipment in place and just really focus on the safety surfacing, and then maybe again create a shade structure or trees unlike others. But that area really needed to be improved, so we're really focusing and keeping our fingers crossed that we will receive the funding, grant funding, that will be able to undertake this project either in the fall or in the spring, depending on when the grant funding is secured. In regards to, I think I mentioned to you some of their ongoing sort of planning documents and planning initiatives that we have done. We're actively updating a master plan. We're working with the Hawthorne Reuse Committee to look at the reuse of a key parcel within the town. So that's ongoing. I'd like to make a plug for 2 public meetings that will take place regarding that project, and that's on August 18th and September 20th. And those meetings will be held in the auditorium in the newly refitted auditorium, so we're excited to see the new equipment and really to share some of the renderings that we're fortunate enough to work with the committee that is made up of wonderful memberships that are very creative and really are able to provide us, hundreds, if not like real, definitely thousands of dollars in renderings and really just their vision, and to be able to put it to paper so our residents and we can all really take a look at it and see it. What does it mean? What could the project look like? So again, those 2 meetings, August and September, hopefully you'll be able to come. We're able to complete some zoning updates, the key one of them being the MBTA communities 3A regulations. I think it's, we should be proud of that. A lot of communities that struggle with it, we're able to pass that on our first try, so that's really exciting. We made changes to our accessory dwelling units bylaws to be in compliance with the state, and then we updated our floodplain regulations. We also received approval of a housing production plan, so right now that planning tool is good through 2029, and we also updated some, or had a complete an economic development plan for the Humphrey Street corridor. Hopefully that will be something that will be valuable when we look at the economies of the redevelopment of the Hawthorne property, as well as the Hadley reuse for it. Some of the goals that maybe we have established or looking to carry out for this year is definitely the redevelopment of Pine, Hadley, Hawthorne, General Glover site, Vinnen Square. As you probably have seen, there is a lot of movement in Vinnen Square. It's really exciting. We have new businesses that are investing in the town. We have Sam Walker Restaurant coming in. We have Kava and like 3 other unnamed restaurants will be coming in there, which is really exciting. So it's been a pleasure to work with the developers. We're looking to complete and have you adopt a master plan. We're almost finished with our hazard mitigation plan. We'll be in front of you for that. We are looking to secure a long-term lease for the train depot at the train station. So that's exciting. And then we will be seeking your approval on a social equity plan, a host community agreement policy for retail cannabis operators. We have 2, and that is something that is required by the Cannabis Control Commission. I hope to present this to you within the next couple of meetings that you have. We also continue to collaborate with, like I said, other key department, all land use boards on initiatives and long-term projects that have been either in the planning documents or continue to come up. We also work with the business community to celebrate new businesses and really acknowledge them, because Swampscott is open for business, so we want to make sure that we really celebrate the businesses who are relocating in here. We do have a assistance that we provide to them through the sign and awning programs. We have some grant funding, and then also key connections through our Salem State Enterprise Center, through the greater area Lynn Chamber of Commerce. So we're here to definitely support our communities. And lastly, we will continue to seek grant funding, try to see what else, how we can really assist our community, our residents in the day-to-day quality of life, and really how to improve the community.
If that's not enough.
I'm ready to lay down.
Wonderful. Thank you, Marzi. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
I have 2 questions. I have 1 question, 1 comment. On the Westcott, I just want to make sure we have a reminder that the fence that was taken down between the Housing Authority and the Westcott needs to be replaced, and needs to be replaced
Thank
as
you very much.
soon as
Reach out
possible.
again to the
And
development.
my comment is, I just don't know how you do it, Marzi. You are by far one of the hardest working individuals I have ever been involved with, and you set the standard. There are days when I think, I really don't feel like finishing the rest of my day, and I think, oh, Marzi Glasgo's in there finishing her day. And I just want to say how much I appreciate your hard work and everything you do for this community. You're just always, yes, you just do everything all the time, and you set the bar. So thank you.
I second that, tireless. Your dedication is like nothing I have ever seen, truly. And, I mean, you were involved in so many projects, so many meetings. I don't know how you do it either, I really don't. And that's not to say that any of those, you don't skimp on anything, right? You're giving 110% to every single project, to every board, whether it's harbor waterfront or planning or zoning. It's just incredible, and I just really thank you. I know obviously you live here, so you're a little bit more committed maybe than most would be, but it's outstanding, the amount of work you do. I really appreciate it personally, just to echo what Mary Ellen said.
And with a smile and a good attitude.
Yeah, unbelievable.
I mean,
unbelievable.
You have to see some people come before you, and they're angry and they're upset, and you're at these meetings, and you just take it in stride and just move forward to try and make it better. And it's always seen and always appreciated. So thank you.
Yeah, I'll be the third there, Marzi. You know, so thank you for your efforts and everything that you've done for the town in '24 and everything you've done this year and will continue to do. Just my question to you is there any sense from your conversations with other community development leaders in the region as to what's going to happen with grant funding at the state and the federal level as we move forward? Any sense of what we're going to see impact-wise in Swampscott?
I think that continues to be an evolving discussion and conversation. I think all of us look at the news every day, and I think there are changes that are taking place that maybe we never expected with the guardrails that have always been there, and things are changing. I can, in confidence, say that the state funding, the governor is committed to funding a lot of the projects, some of the formula grants that we are eligible to apply for and we can seek through the state level. I feel confident that those will still be available. In regards to some of the federal funding, that's just, wait and see. I think that's something that, we continue to try to get updates, really take and plan and, submit the application. Whether or not the funding will be there, we don't know. That's unfortunately the current environment that we live in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Doug? So I don't forget.
DT.
I wholeheartedly concur. Marcy's wonderful, and there's amazing things.
Excellent. So I will bring up one thing real quick. I have heard from some residents. 'Tis the season for a water play, right? And so I've heard from some parents about splash pads in town available, like splash pads around us where the best splash pads are. Lots of parents with little kids are looking for that this time of year. I know I've spoken about it at this table before about having one in town. I know there's a couple locations we've sort of talked about throwing around. For sure, I know you're always open to grants funding those types of things. So you might give a little update on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And so there are several, as you know, we are a mostly fully built-out community. So the recreation opportunities that we can create within the town are, town-owned land, and trying to be creative and also look at the equity, right? I think that there are certain areas in town that have better access to facilities overall, all town facilities versus others. So we did look at several locations for a splash pad. I'm not sure if I should be naming them. What I like to do, I think that the pickleball discussion, I think we learn a lot from it.
Yep.
So before I name any potential location, what I like to do is that maybe we can try to have neighborhood meetings, or perhaps start with a townwide discussion to talk about planning, really look at the open spaces, things that are available for us, and then maybe seek input from the residents to see what location would sort of rise up to the top. Maybe we can create some type of criteria. But yes, that is definitely, it's on our agenda. Something that we looked at in the past. Unfortunately, it was not well received. So this time, what I'd like to do, obviously, is to hold the meetings and really look at, holistically plan on what would work the best.
Sounds great. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, Marzi brought up the appointment of the new town planner, but we never actually voted to appoint the new town planner. So I would like to go back and actually take a vote to do that. And since Doug is online, we do have to do a roll call vote.
Can we take a vote if it's?
Appointment, it's on the agenda.
Yep. Is there a problem if it doesn't say vote? Why don't we take a vote, and then if there is a problem, just let us know.
Let's take a vote, and then, yes, if there is a problem, we will rectify it next meeting.
Motion to appoint the new town planner.
Thank you,
Krista
Danielle.
McGaha, or whatever.
Second is David. So roll call. Mary Ellen Fletcher.
Aye.
Doug Thompson.
Aye.
Danielle.
Aye.
Dave Grishman.
Aye.
Katie Phelan is an aye. Okay, so if we still mess that up, we'll do it again. Hopefully we didn't. Next, moving on to a very exciting topic, and we're very glad to have the Town Administrator Search Committee here with us. Very grateful for all of their work, their energies. This is very exciting, and I will say somewhat nerve-wracking time, right? Because you're trying to pick somebody that fulfills, you know, what we hope will be the future vision of Swampscott for the next 5, 10, maybe longer years. And so before you start, I want to thank all of you guys for the dedication and time you guys put into it. I know you took it very seriously, as we knew you all would, and we're looking forward to hearing from you. Let's get you a microphone so the folks at home can hear you. Thank you, Marcy.
All right, how's that?
Thanks, Heather.
So I'm Heather Roman, I'm the chair of the Town Administrator Screening Committee, and our entire committee's here. We have Tivana Moore, Neil Duffy, Eric Hartman, and we have John Jantis here. First, I just want to thank the committee. Everybody worked really hard together, everybody took this job very seriously and brought different perspectives to the table, and that was really great. And everyone was really committed to finding the best finalists that we could provide to this board. I also want to thank Rick White here, who was our consultant, and thank him for his insight into this process. His experience, his expertise helped lead us through the screening process, and he was able to help us gather some really great candidates. And we are now giving him to you all so he can help you with the rest of the process. So you're very lucky to have him. And then I also want to thank Diane, who really helped keep us on track. She helped us book our room, she helped us with our agenda, she helped us make sure we always got our extensions to you on time and in the proper format, and so we really appreciate all the administrative help that we got from Diane Marchese. Let's see. So we're providing you with 3 finalists who we think will serve Swampscott well. They have excellent backgrounds in municipal governance, they are well-respected leaders, and they are excited about the opportunity that Swampscott provides them. And we, as a committee, are excited about them as well. And so, in no particular order, they are Jason Silva, David Williams, and Nicholas Connors. And we have provided you all with their resumes, their leadership style questionnaires, their professional accomplishments, and Rick will also provide, I don't think you've provided yet, the summaries of all the background work that Rick has done. If you have any questions about the individual finalists, we as a committee recommend that you get to know them through their career history and all the information you already have and through the interview process. When that's over, once you've done all that, please feel free to reach out to any of our committee members with any questions you have about our interviews and about our impressions of the finalists. We just are asking to do that afterwards so we don't overly influence your first impressions. We don't want to overly influence the first impressions of the candidates through this board. But we recommend each of the finalists for the unique qualities they offer to their community, and we do believe that any one of them will be successful here. So, any questions for us? Feel free.
Questions?
My first question is, why are there only 3?
So we did have 4, and we did lose 1 candidate between the interview process and the release forms. So that brought us down to 3. We did feel that we didn't want to present anybody that we wouldn't be 100% confident that if we wanted to only present candidates that we thought were 100% a good fit for Swampscott, had the experience, and were up to the challenge, and that's where we ended up.
So out of 30, there was 30 applicants?
There were 34 applicants.
34 applicants. Out of 34 applicants, there's just 3?
3. We interviewed 9.
You felt that?
And then we felt that there were 4 that rose to the top. 1 withdrew before the releases, and that left us with 3 finalists.
So if you could just indulge me a little bit, from 34 applicants, so you had a screening process, you had a rubric that got you down to 4? Was that 34?
Yes, it got us down to 9 to interview, and
9,
then we
okay,
interviewed
thank you.
9, and then when we, after the interviews, we were down to 4 top contenders. Rick reached out to get all the releases signed, and then we were down to 3.
So what type of rubric did you utilize? Like, how did you, what was the standard to get you from that 34?
Well, we have provided you with all the questions that we asked. We discussed everybody together as a committee. We did have some forms that we could kind of measure, which we can send you that as well. I think you have that, right? You can email that out, where you could sort of rate, the answering of different questions in different categories of the people. We didn't go too strict on that. We went on, a lot of the research on their background and their career experience, as well as their presentation and their interviews.
Okay, and how heavily did the survey that we sent out to residents, how did that come into play with the whole process?
Yeah, so that really came into play with the questions we asked at our interviews. We really wanted to make sure that the two main things that came out in our survey, which we didn't really, we haven't really seen you since the results were calculated. So the two primary things that came out, and this was all in our meeting as well, but was transparency and fiscal acumen, not just fiscal responsibility, but fiscal understanding. So those were our two, so we really did heavily discuss that in our interview questions with all the candidates.
Doug, do you have anything?
Yeah, Heather, can you just comment on the fact that I assume the candidates that you've brought forward are 100% supported by the entire search committee?
Yes, they are, and everyone's here, and they are all nodding. You can't see them.
So there's not a bad choice from the three that we have?
That's how we feel, yes.
Great, fantastic.
So Roman, can you kind of walk us through the next steps and the process that happens from tonight through?
Yeah, definitely. Actually, I'm going to have Rick do that because he's going to be working with you. So.
Thank you.
This weekend, I'll send you a summary of the references in the background checks so that you'll have it before the interviews. My understanding is that you've set aside Tuesday the 12th and Friday the 15th for interviews.
No, Tuesday the 12th and Wednesday the 13th.
I have one candidate who has conflicts with both days.
Okay, I wasn't aware. We'll work that offline.
In any case, they're ready, committed to go, and during our exchange of emails, I sent to Diane a core list of 66 generic questions and asked Diane to send it to all of you and for you to send back to Diane 2 to 3 suggestions that you could take the core questions or come up with your own questions using as a resource the screening committee's questions that they use, which is also included in the packet, and come up with 11 basic questions for you to ask in an hour and 15-minute interview. It's important to have a set of questions that you use so that you can properly evaluate each of the candidates with similar questions and similar standards. But it's also important for you to give yourself enough time during the interview so that there could be a spontaneous back and forth and follow-up. That doesn't necessarily have to follow as a result of the question, but the exchange will give you a sense of who the candidates are and whether or not you feel like you can work with them. Fit is incredibly important. All of these people have had success in the communities that they've worked in, but every community is different. Every community has its own culture, and every candidate doesn't necessarily fit into that community. The screening committee and I believe that these 3 candidates can fit into the community and can work effectively with you if you're willing to work effectively with them, and could have success here. My hope is that you would model your questions in a similar fashion that the screening committee did, although they were really concerned with their overall competency and their ability to do the whole job, demonstrated success in financial planning, budgeting, developing working partnerships with the select board, developing public process and outreach to engage the community, and developing systems of transparency accessible and available not only to the boards that you work for, but to the community, were high priorities for them when they did their interview schedule. Those 4 issues were borne out in the survey, and it just reinforced the feedback that I received not only from the staff, but the community leaders that you asked me to interview, as well as the individual interviews that I had with you. I'll be available to you between now and Tuesday to help you frame the questions. My understanding is that you're going to start the meeting at 5:30?
Yes, I believe.
5 o'clock.
Yep.
I would.
I have draft agendas Diane gave me. You don't have those? You won't find them there, David.
I would schedule the first interview for 5:15 so that you can have 15 minutes to just coordinate, assemble. My hope is that it would be a lively process, that, this is your show and this is your relationship, so that each of you would rotate asking a question to each of the candidates, and then anybody who wants to amongst the board follow up and ask, follow-up questions. The follow-up dynamic is really the most critical. The committee really did try to engage the candidates that they interviewed in a dialogue outside of the set questions they had, and I think it was revealing of who the candidates were, what their personalities were, and how they'd fit in Swampscott.
Very good. Yep. Answer your question, David? Any follow-up? Okay.
No, good. Thanks, Rick.
Good. Doug, are you okay?
All good, thanks.
Great. Well, again, we thank the committee, Heather, and all of you for being all here tonight, for the diligence. Like we said earlier, it's a big responsibility. This person will be taking on a lot in this town, and like the vision of 15,000 people, what they hope Swampscott to be, and appreciate the time and energy you guys gave it, and listening to community members and taking that into account when you interview. That's what people asked you to do, and you did it. So I really, really appreciate that. And Rick, we'll be in touch.
Okay, thank you.
So much.
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rick. Thank you, everyone. Okay. I am going to, with the board's indulgence, bump 5 up to talk to next, only because I think this won't be the last time we talk about it, and I just want to set the groundwork for what sort of this discussion was. It got sort of second rung last time. So the plan is to have a financial summit. The discussion on the agenda is not whether or not we will have one. It is that we are going to have one. And what I asked FinCom and the Finance Committee and the School Committee to do is to really have a conversation with their boards and then bring that conversation to Tri-Chair to make sure that we are understanding all parties' expectations in the financial summit conversation. Because maybe I've not been involved in a financial summit here in town before, and maybe my expectation isn't what everybody else's expectation is. And quite frankly, if you have been involved, you probably will bring forth a great amount of information about what were successes and failures from prior financial summits. So what I don't want to happen is I don't want us to all show up at the summit and then realize the 3 of us are expecting different things. So the purpose for having this on the agenda is to understand what our expectations are, and then to bring that forward in Tri-Chair meetings with Eric and Amy, and to then draft an agenda for the financial summit that will satisfy all parties. So that is why it ended up on here. And would love, Doug, you actually emailed me, because you thought you might not be on this call, some of your thoughts. So do you want to start maybe? Not to put you on the spot, but.
Yes, I did. And just to be very transparent about it, what I emailed you were thoughts that were shared by Jim. And he had, I guess, participated in prior financial summits. And I won't, I frankly don't details of that, but he, and I don't know if you have it there, Katie, but he basically outlined an agenda, which isn't necessarily per se about specific topics, sharing with the board different opinions. For example, having the town's auditor make a brief presentation. If we have it completed by that time, that there will be a presentation of that. There will be a presentation of this. He would suggest November timeframe because it would correspond with the charter mandated financial review at that time period. So we would have the latest financial information at that time without it being. So there are a number of specifics there in terms of an agenda. He had, very specific ideas about, doing it on a Saturday for this. I think all of those are details that, we can work through going forward. I frankly, from my own personal perspective, this puzzle is really the capital budget, and particularly the middle school, because I think we're still very much support elementary school and will be for a long time to come. And we all know that there's the next big middle school in one way or another. And I would hope that we would have a great deal of planning amongst the school committee, the new school superintendent, the town administrator, facilities. We had a conversation a couple meetings ago about what to do with the clerk. I think a lot of pre-planning around the use of those different facilities and what really our plan is going to be going forward, I think will shape and how our what our obligations are going to be in the medium to long. Know that the short term is going to be difficult, and few years that will start to have some relief based on the commercial development that's happening. The relatively short term is clear, but not enjoyable. But the longer term is less clear to me, I would say, and when the impacts will be and the magnitude of those. My opening thoughts. Thank you.
Thanks, Doug. You were coming in and out, but I think we've got most of what you said. I think most of what you said was clear, so.
My apologies.
No, that's okay. Anybody want to raise a hand?
The first thing that comes to my mind is, I felt like the timeline of November was a little bit late. To me, it seems like this is something a little bit that we should get going a little bit sooner. So maybe sometime in October. Just because once you start doing budgets for the next year, I mean, you're talking, by the time you're at November, you're beginning that process for the next year, so.
Who said November? Sorry.
It was in that suggested.
Oh, okay,
Jerry.
got it.
Outline.
Yeah, I agree. I think, I'm hoping that we come together sooner than that, even to just start the conversations.
Right.
I'm hopeful that this becomes either an annual or every other year conversation, and we sort of map out some standards that we can hold going forward. And maybe even that it gets integrated into the charter, that it's required, and sort of set out at least some of the markers, whether it's capital, future projections for financial health. We talk about those financial boundaries we talk about all the time. We've set those guardrails. Do they still make sense?
Right.
Yeah.
So to the extent, too, to Doug's point, I think capital is a key piece of this, right? So as much as the tri-chair is going to be an important meeting, I think it's almost useless without having capital involved as well in the very early stages. Because, you know, I agree with Doug that the middle school is going to be, it's the elephant in the room, right? It's something that we need to discuss, as well as Clark, right?
I think one concern that I have is, should we be discussing what the goals are of the select board? What does the select board see as far as the goals, short-term and long-term, for the town? You know, as the policy-making board, I think the goals have to be set by us, and then they can go out from there. The two financial summits that we had, the first one was focused on giving a high-level overview of where we are financially, and then the bulk of the meeting was to really discuss the amount of dollars we were spending in our safety divisions. And, you know, we learned a lot of things about how to do that and how not to do it. And what we walked away was making sure people were educated on how many dollars were actually going into the safety part of the community. The second summit was focused on the amount of dollars we were spending on the educational side. Both of those summits went from morning until like 4, 5 in the afternoon. So, you know, it takes a lot of time, a lot of work going into it. But I think what's really important is that we have our goals set up first and then spin off from there.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Mary Ellen. I think it would be a great idea for us to set aside time. I know we're going to spend a lot of time, talking with potential town administrator candidates, but really setting the tone with what we're trying to do in August, early September, and that really helps us to really then plan accordingly for this much-needed financial summit. And I also agree that, you know, with middle school projects, with Clark, with potential community centers, with potential redevelopment of the Hawthorne site, capital improvement committee is certainly a key player here, and really the prioritization of those initiatives, and really looking out 5 to 10 years so we can have a better sense of what we want to do, but what we can do financially is certainly going to be paramount. So really setting those goals and objectives as a board is key. And I really liked how we did it last year. How we just had, you know, we took time out on a weekend. We set 90 minutes or 2 hours, and we had a conversation that I thought was good. But once we do that, I think it's also important that we're following up.
Yeah.
So we not only set our goals, but then we review those goals on a quarterly basis. And that's going to help really shape the discussion, with the new town administrator, with everyone at town hall, so that way we're all rowing in the same direction, as it involves our, what we as a board decide to do as a town, and setting that policy. So I think that would be helpful and something that I hope to see come out of this.
Yeah, I want to clarify something that's been said I've heard it a couple of times, but the language that we have not set Gino up for success. And it has nothing to do with Gino. It has everything to do with us. And we met in June, and we set goals and aspirations, and then we never came back around to them.
We didn't.
And they,
Right.
similar to the master plan, it's a breathing document, right? As conditions change, as finances change, as circumstances change, our goals shift, right? Because the priorities change. And so we need to be better about that. We had a lot happen, and there are reasons why we never sort of got back on that track. But like, we need to put some of the things that are taking up space aside and pick up like the business of business. And that involves getting goals, designating goals, and then, as David said, circling back quarterly to make sure that then whoever's in Gino's seat feels confident when they're taking steps forward, because they already know that this is on the select board's goals, and they don't have to circle back with anybody, because they know going forward that is something we've set out to accomplish. And it also helps department heads, helps Marzi search for grants, it helps Police Chief Casada go forward with certain initiatives, and Chief Archer. So like, we need to be better about doing that. And we were well intentioned, but I think there was very little follow through, and we've got to get back on doing that. So I think that it's a great time to do that, given the precipice we're at. So hopefully we get through this hiring of a new TA, and then the very first thing we should be talking about is goal setting, and then our expectations for. We are the policy-making board. So what are we looking to push forward, and how are we looking to go about doing it as a board? And then when we do that, whether it's your goal or not, trying to be supportive of that goal going forward, because that's also been something we've not been great about, right? We've sort of been fractured and moving in separate directions, and I understand why it happened, but let's fix it. Right. And let's go forward in a way to say, okay, I'm committing that this is a goal of the board, and therefore I will move forward in that regard. I think that would be great if we could do that going forward, and to empower whoever's in that seat the ability to be autonomous in their work, instead of having to feel like we need to be involved in what they do, or involved in towns, like in town hall. That is a way to extricate ourselves from town hall, to be clear about our policies. So I think that's a non-starter. We need to do that, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Katie, can I?
Please.
100% agree with that, absolutely. And I would offer that I don't really think that generally our goals are that divergent. I do think that one thing that would be incredibly beneficial is a little bit like I was alluding to in terms of the capital. The amount of pre-work that happens, I think, will be a big determinant about how successful this summit is. And if we could, even collaboratively with, through Tri-Chair, think about what some of that pre-work is, I think we'll all be better off. Having a discussion at Financial Summit about the middle school and not having really prepared for that conversation, or Clark, will obviously make it a lot less beneficial. Similarly, I think it would be useful for all the departments to be thinking about benchmarking, or if we need to engage someone else to help us with that. Where are the innovations? We know basically what our finances are over the next couple of years. It's not going to be a mystery, or generally it's not going to be a surprise that things are going to be very tight. But one thing we do have control over is doing things differently. And whether or not there are, best practices in other places that maybe we haven't, investigated, or made a very significant effort into looking into what those are, we may find that there are, innovations in every single different place throughout our departments. So I would encourage us to be really planning in advance for this, so that we're not getting there and we just have a big group of people sitting around with opinions, as opposed to a fact basis that can really lead to some better decision making.
Yeah, some things we can action on, Doug. I agree.
And to that point, I think we have to acknowledge that, we're talking about a financial summit in the absence of a town accountant or director of finance, right? Yeah. So that is a very key missing piece to this puzzle. And, assuming we have one in place by then, I don't even know where we are with the process. So I think we really should strongly consider leaning heavily, or seeing if we can lean heavily on Cheryl Stella, who is the school business manager, assistant superintendent, because she has worked on this side in this town, and obviously in the school department. And I think that we are going to need factual financial information, right? We can't go into this blindly, and somebody that's experienced is going to be able to help. So that's my 2 cents.
Yep. Okay. So this is just the first of what will be many discussions on this. Hopeful that this gets the ball rolling. I think we do need to be realistic about timing. November seems like it's far, but if we're going to do some goal setting, if we're going to hire a TA, if we're going to potentially have a new finance director in place, like, we do just need to think about where this fits into all of that. And I want it to be helpful, fruitful, actionable. I don't want us to all sit in rooms with big heads and have big thoughts. We want to have action. So that is to say, bear with us, please, public. We are going to find the right time for this. The right time may not be to rush and have it in September when we don't have a new TA in place, or we are, you know what I mean? So let's just be conscious of that. And I think that's a great start. So maybe Diane, you can remind me in September that we are going to have a conversation about goals conversation, and maybe we can figure out a Saturday to do that.
Is there a date for a tri-chair meeting, did you say?
We are meeting on Thursday at 5:30. And this is the first time tri-chairs met with me as chair. So I have not met with them otherwise. We haven't had a need to, I think, at this point. But, outside of budget season, this is the next best reason to meet and make sure that we're all aligned philosophically and with how we need to move forward with this. All right, final item under new and old business is discussion and possible vote on a new social media policy and a code of conduct handbook. So where shall we start? Just to remind folks, this is not the first time we've seen either of these. We had conversations about, we have a code of conduct right now. We have had conversations about looking at a social media policy and updating the code of conduct for quite some time in conjunction with the handbook. On the heels of approving and all signing a new handbook, we thought this was no time like the present, perfect time to have this conversation. So the social media policy is the shorter of the two. Do you want to start there?
Please.
Okay. So right now we have no social media policy. And so this was something that, Danielle, I think we borrowed.
We first started this discussion, I think it was probably 3 or 4 months ago.
Yeah.
When we were redoing the handbook itself. And Mary Ann helped us also. We discussed this, I've discussed this with her. Most towns have a social media policy now. So Swampscott didn't. We didn't even have a handbook, I think. That was years old. So this is kind of commonplace now. So I've taken a first stab at editing this one and trying to make it as, current as possible. But I think in this, in 2025, this is the norm, right? This is not outside of the box. This is not crazy. And considering how heavily this town seems to rely on social media for information, God knows Diane does a great job of updating our website and, our Facebook page all the time. But, to a point that's been brought up before, we shouldn't be relying on social media solely as the main communication mode in this town. In fact, just the opposite should be the norm. But we also have to recognize that there is lots of discussion out there all the time. And, so as such, we really should have some type of guidelines, some kind of boundaries set. And this is this attempt to do that.
Okay. So, do folks just want to go paragraph by paragraph, or how would you like?
Well, I can only say, I read it and everything, that, the changes that, Danielle, is this you in blue?
This is me, yeah.
Yeah,
blue,
so, all these changes made sense. I guess, the biggest question I really had was, you know, how enforceable is this? And I guess if it's really super focused more on the information that we're putting out as a town, to me, it all looked good.
I mean, the majority of this stuff to me is common sense, right? It really is. You know, and to the extent that we have a lot of different town employees utilizing social media to communicate information out about the town, there has to be some consistency in how they do that. And as well as in town employees as elected officials, there have to be some guardrails, right? We have to make sure accurate information is getting out there, you know, in the proper format, right? And that everybody is well-versed in this. As employees, they're signing off on it. They're agreeing that if they're putting out stuff based as, speaking from the town of Swampscott, they're not putting any personal inflection or suggestion there, right? This is just official town business, you know. So really, that's, most of it seems to me to be pretty common sense. I didn't find anything that was, you know, too censoring, like too severe, you know.
Well, like, one question I have is under personal comments.
Yeah.
It says the postings on this site are my own and don't necessarily represent the town's position. At no time should anybody be posting on a town website of their own, on their own, right? On their own position. I guess I didn't see why anybody should say the posting on this site are my own.
Where is
Well, it says,
where's that,
if you,
Mary?
the very first, is L. If you, the very first line there is,
Guidelines for use of
it
social media.
specifically states, please refrain from making personal comments utilizing town modes. I had to add that sentence in, that wasn't originally there. So then the rest of it, right, is a disclaimer you could use, right? If you were attempting to post, that's the suggestion there. If you know, if this is something that you work on that has something to do with what, you know, if it's in your department and you're working on it, and you put in something that is maybe subjective or like something of your opinion, you could put this posting is solely, on the site is solely my personal opinion, right? Just to kind of take it off of the town of Swampscott. But you could strike that entirely if you wanted
I think
to.
the confusion is that this is for social media sites, but then it says any website of the town. So
Right.
you really mean this to mean they're posting on Instagram or
Right.
Twitter or Facebook, and they're saying these comments are mine and not a reflection of the town.
Right, because
That's really,
we do
don't
have.
really mean the town. We don't really mean the town website because nothing.
Right, we have monikers like Swampscott
Yeah.
Recreation or Swampscott DPW, right? They
Right.
have their own kind of pages or own affiliation, right?
Right.
So it's not just the town of Swampscott page. We have different monikers that are out there that we're using, that our employees are
The
using.
DPW has its.
I mean, I think there was, maybe it's not DPW, but it's recreation for sure.
Yeah, recreation definitely has it.
Yeah.
And other boards and committees
Out of
have-
community, like planning
Recreation,
board or
police,
something.
police,
Police
fire.
has their own,
has
fire
their
has
own.
their own.
Yep,
Union,
the
yeah.
union
Yeah.
has their own.
Yep.
So I think,
We need something to delineate from, you know, if they're posting something on there that is, you know, something that could be interpreted as personal, right? Or
Yeah.
some type of personal employee reflection type of thing.
Just a,
Yeah.
so just when we're talking about definitions, you know, just under A, just
Where
Twitter
are you,
is,
David?
Twitter,
Oh,
first
on the
page,
first page.
first page, 2 definitions, Twitter is X.
is X, yeah.
Do we-
Yeah,
Do we
yep.
do we have an official TikTok page
I don't
for the town?
think we do.
No,
I don't
we
know.
Okay.
I don't think.
We should just add it.
We
because
should add it in case we
apply.
haven't got one. I
It's-
mean,
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty popular thing.
Yeah,
Down
you're
in
right.
D, we're talking about moderators and authorized town of Swampscott official, appointed or elected.
yeah.
So we have elected officials who are moderators of official,
We don't, but maybe we will, or maybe if we ever do in the future, I don't know. I mean, we can take it out.
I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility that the select board could have a page that was not.
Oh, God.
Like,
was
or the town
informational.
administrator could have a
Or the
page.
town administrator might have a page, or, I mean, they're not elected, but.
But they're
I mean,
appointed.
The Board of Assessors or the Board of Health,
fair, I was just curious if that
not
if
advocating
that
for us to have a
existed.
page.
I don't think it
No, I
does,
don't.
but
We don't need one.
no, we don't.
Was there anything in here on the social media policy about cyberbullying?
I don't think so.
It just says handling negative comments.
There is something about negative comments, handling
Respecting
negative
your
comments,
audience.
respecting your audience and coworkers, defamation. But I don't think anything about cyberbullying, no.
Did you have a suggestion, David?
I mean, I would think that for this social media policy, I think we should define cyberbullying, and I think that it would be helpful to have under definitions under 2. So maybe that's something that we could add.
So cyberbullying from the perspective of a town employee, cyberbullying somebody else, or?
Cyberbullying for elected and appointed officials within the town of Swampscott. I think just defining that is important.
What does that mean? Like, give me an example of that. What is?
Like somebody going on and saying, you know, Danielle Leonard stinks, or Danielle Leonard
So I mean, like,
is a jerk, or I don't know.
but that would be on a
Right?
town,
I mean,
on a
that's
town
fine.
web,
We
like
can't-
Diane Marchese on a town website?
We can't censure the people of Swampscott to say
Yeah.
anything. They can say whatever they want to say
Yeah.
on social
Right.
media. It is town employees and it is public officials that we're talking about in this
Yeah.
handbook. So we would be defining what our role, what we could or could not, how far we could or could not take things with regards to these particular.
Okay, with regards to
Social media
town social media sites, or are we also talking about select board social media sites?
Well, I think
Like
if
our
you
own
were-
personal pages?
Yeah,
Well, there's a difference between an elected page where you're like Katie
Right.
Phelan for Swampscott,
Right.
and there's a difference between my personal page.
Right.
right.
So, in my spare time, if I take up cyberbullying,
Mm-hmm.
you guys would need to consider that under the code of conduct, I think, or the handbook,
Mm-hmm.
whether that's a characteristic appealing of a select board member, and then whether or not you wanted to bring that forward. I don't think the social media policy is really where that exists. I think we
More
can
of an
certainly.
employee handbook policy.
Yeah, you could talk about it in the employee handbook, you could talk about it in our code of conduct or another handbook,
Yeah.
but I don't think,
Select board handbook.
happy to be wrong if there are other policies that have it, and we can look into other policies and see how they handle it.
Yeah.
But I would think that is more what that relates to, and I also think we want to be careful. The more policies we put into place, it becomes very difficult to manage them all. Because quite frankly, you could write it all down and say whatever you like, but if there's no repercussions, then what's the point? Like, if employees, we have very clear repercussions for, right? Because there's expectations and they're under our employment. As far as, you know, like us, a standard for us, like we would have to put into place some sort of repercussions if we fail to meet those standards.
Yeah.
I mean, right now we're self-patrolling. And maybe that's not the best way to go about doing it, but I don't know. I just think it becomes very difficult to do that.
Right, so as much as I can't stand social media in many aspects and the cowardly hits that people take, I also am very cautious about people's right to free speech. So in the event that a select board member, for example, calls the fire department greedy and fleecing the town, like, isn't that his or her right? That's a question I have. You know, isn't that their right? And should we be actually trying to make opinions going that far? I don't really know.
Well, I think that's the difference between a personal page and a town page. If an elected official had access to the town page and was saying that as the town of Swampscott, that would be an issue.
Very much so.
If they are saying it as their own opinion on their own personal page, while the handbook suggests they should say the posting on this site is my own and do not necessarily represent the position of the town, I would just think by product of it being on their page, the supposition is that is their personal opinion. And I think we have to be very careful with free speech. And we can put whatever, we can make suggestions, but I think KP Law will have to come back and say, you can't do that. Like, you can strive for better, but in the end, free speech is very well protected and we are not gonna be able to censor people.
Right.
So,
So I think prior to speaking to KP Law, because I do know that open meeting law, there is some fine lines between, say, your social media page for, Katie for Swampscott or Mary Ellen for Swampscott, whatever. I do know that that does have different regulations and rules compared to non-such and such, right? So I just don't remember what those lines really are, but I don't know how to tie that in with this.
All right, Doug, did you have anything you wanted to add to this before we move on to the code of conduct?
Yeah, just one thing. I get, well, maybe two things. I get the thinking about the cyberbullying. I'm not so sure it's such a bad thing to have it in this context, since this has to do with that forum. But we can look and see. More specifically, I'm confused by one statement. It says in the beginning under 3 policy, all town social media sites shall be approved by the select board. I've never known us to approve all social media sites. Is that true?
We have not approved social media sites.
Well, we don't have a policy today, so I would say that we have not approved all of them, but I think
we should.
The idea is, yeah, I think the idea is not bad, just to know what is out there and needs to be managed.
Right.
And if you have a department head who creates a social media site that is unknown and you don't really...
They're communicating on behalf of the town.
Right.
They need to apply the same guidelines that
Yes.
we're requesting of the official town of Swampscott site.
And it doesn't have, I mean, I don't think it has to be us necessarily, it could be the town administrator, but I think somehow there needs to be some overview into what's happening for each of the departments. And when things change hands, for example, like we had this with the rec department, they have a very active social media presence.
Right.
And we had to, obviously make sure that that presence is passed along to the next one. And that can be difficult, I know from my own perspective, like, from PTO to give access to other people under admins where admins create it. It was a very difficult task to do on some of these platforms. So at least being able to require that they be reported to the town administrator and that there is some accessibility by either HR or the town administrator to be passed along.
Like the
I think that's
IT department
important.
has,
Because you could lose, I mean, not to sound like a tween, but you could lose all your followers, which is the purpose of why it exists, right? To inform people. But you could lose that, and then you have to start from scratch again, and it could be a detriment to the department.
So as an addendum to this, or something around, all social media sites, can we also catalog what we do have?
Yeah, that would be great.
I think that would be
They should be defined.
incredibly important.
Yeah.
Gino, could you work with
Oh, the
me
library
maybe
too.
to do that?
The library has one,
Library, police,
The library,
fire,
please.
fire.
senior center,
Right.
they have it.
Senior
They're very
center.
active.
Yeah, I think I guess I didn't say it clearly enough. What I'm getting at is, we can maybe approve certain entities having a site, but what I don't want this to, be inferred is that we're needing to monitor and update and all the approvals and changes that happen on each site. Or that,
No.
We don't care what, is going up there as long as it can, it's confined by, appropriateness, right? That you're setting the guardrails
And then we
for.
know what the existing sites are.
Exactly.
As of whatever date this policy would be
Right.
approved.
We can make that sentence clear, Doug, because I think we're all in agreement with you.
yeah, thanks.
Okay, then we
So
will.
what are we doing with this?
We'll do that, and then we'll do a little bit of research on
Yeah.
cyberbullying. David, since you brought it up, if you wouldn't mind, just, we can
Marion, if you
also
wouldn't mind
reach
reaching
out.
out to KP Law and then, having-
Before we reach out to KP Law, because I want to be, mindful of our legal bills.
Yes, sorry. Yes.
Let's see what other towns have, see what we could beg, borrow, or steal, from those policies. And then all of those have been vetted by council, hopefully, so maybe we'll come back to KP Law with a thoughtful, cleaner version.
Yes.
Before we ask them for something.
I'll do some research
Great.
about cyberbullying.
Great. Okay, moving on to the code of conduct.
So I want to go first.
Please.
The code of conduct is one of the most disappointing policies we have on this board. Since I've sat on this board, I don't think I have experienced more disrespect and just pathetic behavior in any body, employment, any environment I've ever been on. And I'm really tired of it. I am so tired of it. Last week was my breaking point. I was accused of asking an accountant to pay a bill, which was not true. It was a lie. For 3.5 years, I have sat here and I have listened to people take shots at me or other people that are not true. It's almost like a free-for-all. You just come out and say it, and it becomes fodder. You come out and say it, and all of a sudden it's in the new newspaper without it even being checked. You know, if there's any question as to whether or not I asked an accountant to pay a bill, I have a written document here that says I did not, just in case anybody wants that. That's how far I had to go to clear my own name, and that is unacceptable. So if we're going to sit here and do a code of conduct, then we better make sure that we're going to hold people accountable. And Mr. Grisham, I seriously feel that this board needs to hold you accountable for your actions. I think what you did was wrong, and now I have to sit here and go through a code of conduct, and if we're not going to really hold people to it, and it's not even about holding people to it, it's just about basic decency, and that is something we lack. And I have no answers for that. I can't make somebody be a decent human being, return a phone call, or stop throwing mud at each other. But we have a really serious problem. And I think what you did last week is such a violation of this code, and I want to know how we're going to be using this. Other than that, the rest of the things that were changed in here, I'm fine with everything that's changed in here.
All right. Thank you, Mary Ellen. And
welcome, Katie.
David?
Yeah, I mean, I think just looking at chapter 6, you know, there were some changes, you know, where we talk about, you know, in the case of inappropriate conduct by a select board member, a report should be made to the chair of the select board. You know, so that was a new addition. In the case of, down in C, in the case of a complaint against a member of the select board, the chair of the select board shall determine the next course of action. Just from thinking about this, I mean, we're talking about a specific situation. You know, but one of my concerns is if there's a complaint against the chair of the select board, then, you know, who would adjudicate that? You know, so to look at that policy, you know, certainly it would seem that there should be, you know, a professional staff member or independent third party that should be evaluating this for reporting and for investigations. That would be my recommendation. And then as we're talking about,
So, sorry, can you just be really clear, because I want to consider your comments. So you want us, in the reporting section, you think that is not an appropriate change?
I wouldn't be comfortable with reports made to the chair. The reports can be made to the chair of the select board and someone in the town administrator's office. I just don't think it should be solely the chair's purview or responsibility. I think this should go through trained professional staff. Would be my view.
So let me take a stab at this, because I am the one that actually so I'm the one that edited this code of conduct, right?
Mm-hmm.
This isn't something that just popped up this week. It's unfortunate for what we dealt with last meeting, but this has been in the works prior to that. Okay.
Understood.
So when I read through this, my first thought was everything in here speaks to town employees. and that's great, and it should, but let's be realistic, like, if this happens on the select board, what are we gonna do, right? So, the only thing I thought was that if something inappropriate is done by a select board member, the person that oversees us is the chair, right? And that's how I view it, right? But I mean, I could be wrong, but to your point, if it's the chair that we have us, the other members have a problem with, what do we do? Right?
Or the vice chair.
Or the vice chair.
Okay, maybe that's a possibility. This was just me, I put this in because I really wanted to address the disparity between how it speaks to town staff as opposed to members of this board, right? So I wanted to put in a guardrail for us. But yes, we need something if the problem is with the chair. If we have an issue with the chair, how do we, so we can put vice chair. I don't know that it's appropriate, in my view, to try to make a member, I don't want to put a member of town staff to have, who is in a, we're in a dominant position over town staff.
Right.
So I really can't see how a town staff person would be able to investigate any one of us in an appropriate manner, right? Because there's a disparity there. But that's just me. That's my opinion. But I agree with you. Do we then put an outside investigation? Do we want to word it that way? Do you want to take it to that level? I mean, you can't have the town administrator do it because they report to us, right?
Right.
That's how I think of it. So, vice chair, does that work? Or is it like, a majority of the select board? Do we want to put something in there that says that? If it's a problem with the chair, is up to a majority of the select board to decide that?
Yep.
Or,
Well, what the select board can do at any point is the select board, the chair or the vice chair can call a meeting, and it can be handled within a meeting, So we have that, we have that tool at our disposal if we want, so.
do we want to specifically define that in the language? Do we want to write that out and say, does it have to be public? Is it executive session? Like, do we want to get that specific so that we have that safeguard in there, right? So it's not just, this could kind of happen, this is the procedure, this is how it follows.
Yeah, I will just say, on advice of counsel, because I talked to KB Law about some of this, and when there is procedure in place and procedure conflicts with law, the law prevails. So we can write it down and we can say, this is what our policy is. But for example, if you're violating open meeting law, the policy goes to the wayside and open meeting law is what should prevail. That's what you're held accountable. That's the highest standard. The law is the standard. The procedure is the secondary position.
Right.
And so we don't have to come up with this full cloth.
No.
Towns handle this all the time.
Right.
There must be other towns who have a detailed procedure. We should be looking to our super peers, seeing what they do. I think what you might find is that a lot of folks don't have codes of conduct. And the reason why is because we have laws and checks and balances in place, and it's not to not hold people accountable or to not be transparent. It is simply to say the guardrails that are in place should be enough. So, KB Law's advice is, as you go deeper into being more specific, it is a little bit more dangerous because you may be putting yourself in positions where you can't actually follow that process or procedure. So I think we should look at our super peers. We do this for job postings all the time. We should hold ourselves to a similar accountable standard. We should see what do they have for their code of conduct. Maybe we can take a look at a couple of them, highlight the things that all mirror each other, and we can go from there with regards to that. I can't speak to how this was originally created, if that's the policy, if that's sort of what we went through, I don't know. But that would be my suggestion for some of this stuff, because as Danielle stated, it's a little close to home in the circumstances, but we have been having this conversation for months.
Yes.
This policy is in place and has been in place since 2022.
Yeah.
We did not, I think, it doesn't properly discuss what happens if this is an issue with the select board.
Right.
It doesn't properly discuss, if it's an issue with the chair, that's a great point.
Right.
And I don't want to put town staff, any town staff, be it HR, being a town administrator, in a position to have to mediate us. We hold ourselves accountable,
Right.
and we need to do that. And so that is my suggestion for, like, let's not try to recreate the wheel. Let's see what other wheels are out there. And again, as an attorney, you always start with somebody else's product first. It's not plagiarism, it's just being smart. And you take the things you like and you use them, and you take the things that you don't like and you get rid of them and you change them. So that would be my suggestion.
Good suggestion.
Katie?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I'm not going on video because a little bit, but I think I 100% agree with you. I think, and others, things are, so let's just be clear, a little bit hot at the moment. And we would all benefit, I think, from not punting this long way. Let's make sure that we maybe even have KP Law join us next time when we talk about this, so that we really understand what we're, let's get this done, but let's not make a mistake and kind of guess at what the right answer.
Yes, Doug.
300 and, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, I think it would be best if we got a little bit further down the road before we involve KP Law in our discussion, but I'm very happy to have them. I just don't wanna waste time with something until we get a little further down the road, but I think that's a good suggestion. Okay, so, let's work on that. And again, let's not, as Doug said, table it way down the road, but just sort of shelf it for now. Cooler heads prevail. Okay, if everybody's all set?
Yep.
We're good there, okay. Moving on to the consent agenda. So.
Take out the minutes.
We're taking out the minutes, please. And I was under the impression we were taking out item 1. Is that still the case?
No. I don't, it's on here. Do you want to take out item 1? I would be okay with leaving it in, or if we want to discuss it, or.
No, I think we are tabling item 1.
Okay. We are?
Yeah, at the request of the person who was requested to be tabled. So we'll take it out and we'll put it back on.
Wait a second.
Who's here?
You're the liaison.
I am.
What's your opinion here?
This is my appointment, and, I mean, I am comfortable with my appointment.
Okay.
He is here tonight.
Okay, so that's the consent agenda. Do you have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Second, we need a roll call vote. Doug? This is the items 1, 2, and 3. 4.
Wait, just pull out item number 2, because I'm gonna have a quick
God.
question on that. I'm sorry.
Okay, so 2.
Just pull out 2 just for a second.
Can we pull out 1?
Yeah, so we're only, okay, so let's just go one by one, guys, because now we're down to 1 item on the consent agenda.
Okay.
Okay, so we're tabling 4 into the next meeting, so that one we don't have to talk about. What did you need about 3? Oh, 3 was the only one we were keeping on. So I'll take a motion to approve the 3rd item on the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the 3rd item.
Second.
Doug? This is
Aye.
Aye. Danielle?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
And Katie is an aye. Okay, so that's fine. 2, discussion and possible vote on the hawker peddler license.
On the question here is, it says, two things here. It says Fisherman's Beach location only. Marzi, I'm a little concerned that it says Fisherman's Beach location only, or Diane, and that is not the understanding of the applicant. Is he here?
He's right here.
Dave,
It's right there.
are you applying for a hawker peddler license just for Fisherman's Beach area?
Just like last year,
Okay,
different locations.
good thing I pulled that up.
Fisherman's Beach.
license, the application you filled out only said the farmer's market and Fisherman's Beach. It didn't list any other location. I crossed out the farmer's market because he's already there. He doesn't need the hawker peddler license for the farmer's market.
Okay, so we should just take out Fisherman's Beach location only.
And just put any location?
Just
Well,
put nothing,
Or list
No,
right?
I don't think we want to just, no offense, we love you. But we're not saying he could just go anywhere he wants, whenever he wants it, I think, are we? Is that,
A hawker's license is for
Yeah.
any place in town within the guidelines of.
The application.
okay.
Right, so you're,
We go to Fisherman's Beach or the field for events. We go
right,
all over.
Okay.
We don't go in a commercial, we wouldn't like park in front of Lincoln's Landing or anything like that. I mean, we just go where, there's a need.
Okay,
So just to clarify that, it says Fisherman's Beach location only on our consent agenda.
right,
but that,
However, but that doesn't apply
Right.
for the license that was, so is that, so can we just,
We can amend it.
Can we just
We can amend
that?
it.
yes, we can amend it.
So how was that worded?
just take off Fisherman's Beach.
Just take off
location.
Fisherman's Beach. So we are approving the Hawker Peddler's license. To Diane's point, he did put on his application location within the town. He put the farmer's market, which she crossed out because he doesn't need a hawker's license for the farmer's market because he has there's a separate understanding at the farmer's market. He pays a separate fee. And so she just left Fisherman's Beach, so that is why she labeled it that on the agenda.
That is correct.
Yes, understood, Diane. You're welcome.
So what we're doing is, you're amending the application. We're amending the application is getting amended, you're taking out the Fisherman's Beach, and we're making an amendment in our minutes,
Okay, and not to be a stickler, but then all of these sign-offs that are attached, were they viewing it only as a Fisherman's Beach location, or were they viewing it anywhere, anytime?
Gino can answer that, because he signed it twice. Or did he? He only signed it once. That's the Hawker Peddler.
Yep.
That would be just the chief.
The town administrator and the police chief.
Yeah,
Okay, so I would consider a motion to approve so long as conditioned upon the chief being comfortable with the amendment made to anywhere. Because,
I'll make that,
yeah, because he signed off on it, so I just don't want it to be like.
second,
Okay, great. So all those in favor?
aye,
Aye. Oh, sorry, we gotta do
You
roll
have to
call.
do roll
We have to
call.
Roll call.
yep,
Mary Ellen and
Danielle.
I.
aye,
David,
Aye.
Doug,
Aye.
Marilyn.
Aye.
Katie, aye.
okay,
Okay. We love the bagel. This is not a reflection of you.
no, sorry.
I do want to just add, after this season, we do need to have a conversation about these licenses, because I'm getting multiple complaints over one of these licenses that we authorized, and how it's being used. So I don't want to throw a bomb in the middle of the season, but as soon as the season's over, I do want to have a discussion about this.
What is the hawker season?
Let's say the hawker season is going to be at least, well, this will go until 12/31, but I want to bring this up again in September, October.
Okay,
After
September,
the summer.
October. Conversation about
Hawkers.
hawkers, peddlers. Thank you for staying the whole time, and thank you for.
Can I ask you one question?
Sure.
Sure.
So, I was told that this cycle would go through until August of next year. It's a one-year approval.
Okay.
I just want to
Well, no, no,
clarify
no.
that.
It's not.
No.
It's calendar year.
So because of the problem with this whole process, we've lost the whole summer. And now, so this is going to be reviewed in the end of August or September now?
No.
No, that was not what was said. Your hawker license will be good to the end of the year, and then for 2026, you'll have to apply for a new one. And the conversation we're having is about these licenses in general.
I understand why, I know
Okay.
what the conversation is about with the license. But to go through this all over again, I mean, and if we can, if you can think about the process to get fingerprinted every single year is crazy, I think. It's time consuming, it's expensive, it's a burden on the police department, and my fingerprints don't change year to year. I don't understand why I have to get fingerprinted every year again. That's just, you know, maybe you could revisit that when you're revisiting the licenses.
We will, and
will be glad
just to make a point, just so everyone on this board knows, Dave was given misinformation. And that's, you know, at first he was told he needed it, then he was told he didn't need it, and then all of a sudden it was, whoa, you do need it. So we made a mistake, the town, we've made a mistake, we're very sorry.
Oh, yeah, no.
And
We'll honor that.
we'll be on top of it.
I'm totally on the team. You guys know
Right.
that. And
Right.
I'm tired now anyway. But I'll do whatever you tell me to do.
Okay, and we'll get it all worked
Get it,
out.
I mean, that's just, if we can,
Yes,
I
thank
don't
you.
have to-
Absolutely. Sorry about that.
you know.
Thank you
Can I-
very much.
May I be excused?
You
please?
may.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Take good care.
Okay, so the last and final item, discussion and possible vote on the appointment of Louis Struzzulo to the Rec Commission for a 3-year term expiring 2026.
Danielle?
Yeah. Lou Struzzulo.
We have his resume.
He's here tonight, Mr. Struzzulo. He is active in so much in this town. He's done a lot he organizes a lot of the North End feasts in Boston. He would be a huge asset to us on recreation. We're down, I think, at least one, if not two, at this point, with the chair having resigned the last meeting. I think he'd be a great addition. I think he'd make a lot of things, you know, he'd lend a lot to the community, and I think we should put him on the rec commission.
Is he the same Struzzulo that is married to the cake baker?
Yes, his wife is a cake baker. Yep, Shangri-La Sweets. Laurie Struzzulo, she lives in town.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Okay. I would like to ask a question of Mr. Struzzulo.
Well, I don't know if that's appropriate.
Well, no, I just want to know if Mr. Struzzulo has engaged in cyberbullying.
No.
So you have not engaged in cyberbullying?
Nope.
So you were not on Swampscott Parents masquerading as Say It, making inappropriate comments?
What are we doing here?
On social media.
What are we doing here?
I'm asking a question because
Okay, you asked it and
we're
you
literally,
answered.
we're literally talking about a social media policy and a code of conduct, which if this
He's
individual.
neither a town
David,
employee,
David,
nor is he
he's not.
on a board or
And this
commission
has
right
nothing to
now,
do with the
nor is
Recreation
he an
Commission.
elected official.
Let's remember what we're here to do. We are here to serve the people of this town.
Elected and appointed officials. This is
And
the
we are
policy.
here to do what's in the best interest of people in this town.
That is a
Right.
novel idea.
You can disagree with people, you can have difference of opinion. My competitor is sitting in the audience and we talk all the time, okay? Like, just because you don't agree on something doesn't mean we get to stop putting people that want to be involved in this town on boards and committees. Doesn't, right? Let me be real clear about social media. I had 27 people come at me on social media telling me that I shouldn't comment because I'm an elected official and my position is higher and I should, you know, keep my mouth closed, okay? So I could say I was cyberbullied by 25 people. I don't, because you know what? I can take it. I'm sitting in this seat. I can take the shots. I get them all the time, okay? That's the reality of being on the select board. A lot of people don't agree with a lot of the things that you say, I say, all of us say.
I agree with that wholeheartedly, Danielle, but
You know?
you also put your name behind the comments that you.
Absolutely.
That you have, as do I.
Absolutely, but a lot of people didn't, that came at me, David. There were 25 anonymous 357, 964, 842 telling me right where to go and didn't put their name against me. And I even said, you know what, I really think it's cowardly that people can't even confront me directly if they disagree with me. I'd love to have a conversation with anyone.
What
I'm
does this
happy
have to do
it.
with recreation?
It doesn't,
Thank
but
you.
I'm just putting it out there.
It's 9:30.
I think it has everything to do with recreation. I think you're putting someone on a committee that is and has violated the social media policy, has cyberbullied, has hidden behind.
We don't have that.
We don't even
that
have the policy.
Oh, okay.
And I totally disagree with you.
Okay. Well, I will be voting no.
Okay.
I've said my piece, so.
Totally.
I just want to
Go
say,
ahead.
David, some people would say the same about you. I'm not saying I would say the same about you, but some people would.
Okay. I would.
And so just be thoughtful about that when you bring forward comments like this, because if you're engaging in some of the behavior that you are bringing out forward that you think other people are doing, then be self-reflective. Like, if you don't like the way he did it, I understand you put your name on it, but does it make it any better? Because I'm sure Tasia didn't think it made it any better. I'm sure Andrea Moore didn't think it made it any better. Like,
Katie, we had a conversation about this yesterday.
We did?
Yeah, we did. And you had indicated that it did happen and that Mr. Suzullo had withdrawn his name from consideration.
He did. You saw me just say here, I thought that is what happened.
Okay.
I am not the rec commission liaison.
I am.
Can we?
If I may say something, just to end all this argument, which is ridiculous right now,
Right.
is that I had a very nice conversation with Danielle Leonard afterwards because I was going to withdraw my name, and she had a very nice conversation with me and reinvigorated that everything that I do in my life and all the fundraisers I have run and all the parades I have run and all the charities I have run, it all pays to help in this town.
Right.
I was already doing stuff on the side on helping this town. And by her just reminding me of these things reinvigorated me, because I did call her to say I was going to rescind my name.
Yes.
And she reinvigorated me that, you know, everything that you do is just going to help this town.
Right.
And I said, you know something, Danielle, I needed that. I needed you to say that to me in order to push me forward.
Yeah.
She said it. I gave her my answer right then and there. So that's where this that's what this is. And with everything that's going on with he said, she said, let's just remember one thing, is that if your name is on it, your name is on it. But if you put something on as anonymous, there's a reason behind it. People put things on as anonymous because there's a reason behind it. Because there's embarrassing things that go on mainstream, okay? People want to talk. People want to express themselves. People want to say the truth. But the people don't want to say the truth out in public because they're going to get embarrassed. They're going to get slandered. They're going to get put down. So how can someone in this town have a voice, an opinion, now by not even being anonymous or by using your name? Because you're going to get attacked no matter what. So it's either we're saying that no one should be able to say anything about how they feel, what they believe, or what they see is going on, or what they see in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So should we just all not speak? That's what using your name or being anonymous is because maybe someone doesn't want to get slandered, someone doesn't want to get put down. I'm sorry, but people that are in a public office, you know, that there are things that come with that. And I've seen what goes on in this floor. And I've seen a lot of people get embarrassed that live in town. There's more power up there than there is in this seat. There's more power up there to embarrass a person that sits in this seat and to keep it going. I'm not saying anybody is or doing it, but just remember that the person sitting in these seats can easily be put down and cannot have a chance to redeem themselves.
Thank you, Mr. Strzullo. All right, so I will take a motion.
Katie?
Oh, yes, Doug, sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, I'd like to make a subsequent motion.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to table this for this meeting.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Oh, roll call. Doug?
Aye.
Oh, you made the motion, sorry. Danielle?
No.
David?
Yes.
Mary Ellen?
No.
I'm a no.
Okay. I got to ask you, Doug, why would you want to table it? What is the point here?
Point is just to give us a moment to breathe.
Well, you know what, Doug? That's rich, really, because we've been breathing for 2 weeks, right? And nobody wanted to breathe 2 weeks ago. Now, all of a sudden, we're not going to put a person who wants to volunteer on a committee because of a personal issue on Facebook. No.
I just.
That's what you're alluding to, Doug, and that really is a lack of leadership to me, really.
Okay, I will take another motion on the topic.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Doug?
No.
Danielle?
Yes.
David?
No.
Mary Ellen?
Yes.
I'm a yes. I'll take a final motion as we've concluded.
Second.
Hold on, we still have,
Oh,
What?
more time, don't we? Or you didn't do that?
Oh,
board time.
select board time. Well, okay, select board time.
Select board time. We have a block party this Saturday, sorry. I'm very excited about it. A lot of vendors, a lot of people signed up, a lot of community people this year. In my role this week as the interim recreation director that I am doing, I have learned a lot about recreation and this block party. I have had countless meetings with Diane, who has taken the lead and is absolutely knocking it out of the park. Thank you, Diane. Lots of help from a lot of people. Marzi has been huge. Marianne, Gino. It's going to be great. I'm very excited about it. And yeah, I'm excited to actually do work in this town for the people that live here and stop talking about nonsense. So that is all I have to say tonight, because I'm really tired of the banter. So let's get back to actually doing what we're here to do.
Thank you. David's good. Mary Ellen?
I'm good for tonight.
Good. Okay, great. Doug, do you have select board time?
I'm all set, thanks.
Okay, I will leave us all with this. We can choose to be right, or we can choose to be successful. Like, we have to put the swords down, and we have to choose to be successful, guys. We're not going to get anywhere if we can't. So that's where I leave us. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All the roll call.
Aye.
Danielle?
Aye.
David, I find it very disrespectful that you're walking out in the middle of the roll call.
It's just more of the same. We
Doug?
can't get anywhere.
Aye.
Mary Ellen?
Aye.
I am an aye. Thank you.
It doesn't change.